Chapter 379. Along the way, Chun Hao and the other two appeared, and attracted the attention of countless people, especially the envious, jealous, and hateful gazes of the young disciples. To put it simply, if looks could kill, Chun Hao would have died 1,000,000 times over. Countless people were guessing Chun Hao's identity. It was just that no one had guessed it. The only thing they could guess was that Chun Hao was the young man the sisters had saved from the beast tide. However, no one would have thought that the angels of the devil Dao in everyone's hearts, the sisters who attracted the attention of thousands of young disciples in Heavenly Mist City, would actually get so close to this young man so quickly. Just by looking at their intimate and ambiguous behavior, one could tell that the relationship between the three of them was not simple. Although the young man's vitality and aura were that of a rare genius, and he was extremely handsome, it was still too fast. It was so fast that no one was prepared for it. In the face of such a scene where everyone was watching and discussing, most people would more or less behave strangely. If they did not hold their heads high and look very arrogant and proud, if they did not look calm and unfathomable, they would look very pretentious. However, Chun Hao, who was used to such scenes, looked as usual. Surrounded by the two girls, he looked to the side from time to time, as if he was curious about the layout of the martial arts practice field and the crowd. It was as if he did not feel the gazes and discussions of the crowd. First miss, second miss, you've come out of seclusion? Just as the three of them were walking along the passageway in the training ground, heading towards the high-class arena in the depths, a few figures quickly arrived before the three of them and spoke with a trace of surprise. As they spoke, they cupped their fists respectfully at Chun Hao. The symbols on their clothes were that of the Lung family's disciples. Naturally, they knew of Chun Hao's existence. However, at this moment, their eyes were filled with curiosity and surprise, and there was even a hint of hostility. They just did not dare to show it. The sisters were the pride of the Lung family's disciples. How could they not be hostile when they were suddenly captured by another man? Yes. Has that woman appeared these few days? Lung Ninghuan asked. She came 2 days ago. Young mistress has advanced to the late-stage essence soul realm after experiencing the beast horde, said a disciple. Late-stage essence soul realm? The sisters looked at Chun Hao in unison. Obviously, he did not expect that Mo Yuxian would be able to advance. After all, after stepping into the primordial spirit realm, even if one was in the same realm, the difficulty of improving was not small. Although the beautiful sisters knew that Chun Hao had the ability to challenge super geniuses, they had never seen it with their own eyes. He was a little nervous. However, Chun Hao's expression did not change at all, as if he did not care at all. Oh, isn't this Miss Lung? At this moment, a discordant voice sounded. An extremely beautiful young girl, who was surrounded by a group of young men and women, had a condescending smile on her face. Her figure flashed and appeared in front of everyone. The sisters immediately snorted coldly and transmitted. She is Mo Yuxian. Every time, as long as we come over, she will be there on time. Not bad, you found a Taoist companion so quickly. Congratulations. You've reached the early stage essence soul realm at such a young age. It's not bad that the two of you can find such a Taoist companion. Why do you want to challenge me again? I'll play with you later. Mo Yuxian's expression was a little smug. Although her voice was pleasant to the ears, it was filled with condescension and blatant provocation. The beautiful sister's expressions became extremely ugly. After Mo Yuxian finished speaking, she did not give the two girls a chance to attack. She shot a coquettish glance at Chun Hao and walked into the depths of the training ground. Her slender waist swayed like a proud peacock. She walked very slowly, obviously enjoying the anger and frustration of the two girls. However, she had only walked a short distance when she almost sprained her waist. She suddenly turned her head and glared fiercely at the young man who made her a little jealous. Huan Lele, is this the fairy you were talking about? You want me to play with such an ugly old woman? Why don't you step into the essence soul realm, and then play with her yourself? I'm afraid I'll be suffocated by her foul smell. All right, stop transmitting your voices. We cultivators should follow our hearts, right? So be it. If she wants to challenge you, I'll take action. If she doesn't want to challenge you, then forget it. I'm really not interested. Chen Hao's voice was neither loud nor soft, but it was clearly heard by everyone. Mo Yuxian, who had already pricked up her ears to listen to the sister's gloominess, naturally heard it clearly. Brother Hao, she's not as old and ugly as you say. After all, she's still called Fairy Yu. When everyone heard Chen Hao's words, they looked at each other. The sisters, who were gloomy, could not help but burst out laughing. Their hearts were completely at ease. Since Chen Hao dared to say such a thing, naturally he did not take the other party seriously at all. Therefore Lung Ningle, who was more of an outsider, played along with Chen Hao. That's because you don't understand. When we look at problems, we have to look at them from a comparative perspective. Yes, she's indeed a fairy, but compared to our Huan Lele, she's no different from an old sow. If I were her, I would have hidden away long ago. Why would I show off in front of you and deliberately show off your beauty? Cough cough, there's really no comparison. Mo Yuxian is quite beautiful, but after what he said, look, Mo Yuxian's waist is also quite thin, right? But compared to the sisters, it's like a bucket waist. Yes, her face is also incomparable. She's indeed much older. It seems like her but is also a little saggy in comparison. Lower your voice, do you want to die? Yes. Can't help it. Who's that kid? He seems very powerful, but he's only at the Essence Soul realm. Isn't he obviously provoking Mo Yuxian? Who knows? Let's go and see. When Mo Yuxian appeared, Chen Hao and the other two who were already eye-catching became the focus of everyone's attention. How could they not hear Chen Hao's words? Moreover, in the entire Heavenly Mist City, there was no one who did not know about the conflict between the sisters and Mo Yuxian. Mo Yuxian stared coldly at Chen Hao. She was so angry that her lips were trembling. In the Heavenly Mist City, no one had ever dared to humiliate her in front of her. Who is this kid? How dare he be so arrogant? Especially under the countless judgmental gazes, she felt her face burning. She was indeed a beauty, a rare beauty. However, even if she did not want to admit it, she had to admit that the sisters, Lung Ning Huan and Lung Ning Lu, were definitely more beautiful than her. Moreover, in terms of talent and potential, they were not inferior to her at all. It was also because of this that she was hostile to the sisters. Moreover, Shimin Wenjian suddenly wanted to take the sisters as his disciples, which made her feel a great sense of danger. Originally, when she saw the sisters being so intimate with Chen Hao, she was happy in her heart. Moreover, when she saw Chen Hao's appearance and aura, she felt a little jealous. Even if beauty was in the eyes of the beholder, Chen Hao, who was obviously younger, was more manly than Shimin Wenjian. Moreover, he was already in the early stage of the primordial soul realm. It seemed that he was not inferior to Shimin Wenjian in any aspect. The only difference was that he was just a matter of time. However, jealousy was jealousy. As long as Shimin Wenjian could not get the sisters, she would be satisfied. She did not believe that Chen Hao's family background could be compared to the Shimin clan. Alright, then let's do it on this arena. I will challenge the next one. Lung Ningla said. The sisters' small faces were filled with dazzling smiles, and the enchanting charm of Devil Dao beauties was fully displayed. Perhaps it was because they had never vented their anger like this before, but their faces shone with a faint blush, making them even more beautiful. Even Chen Hao, as their grandfather, was stunned. One was still fine, but two identical flowers blooming at the same time was a little tempting. Hearing Lung Ningli's words, Mo Yuxian, who had stopped because of Chen Hao's words, coldly snorted and did not continue walking. She took a deep breath and forcefully suppressed her anger. She secretly swore in her heart that if she did not trample these two girls and Chen Hao half to death, her surname would not be Mo. Young master, Lung Ning Lu and Lung Ning Huan have gone to the free exchange arena. However, Miss Mo followed closely behind them. Just a moment ago, when Chen Hao and the other two appeared in the free exchange arena, Shimin Wenjian, who was sitting cross-legged, received a message from the communication talisman. This girl really doesn't know what's good for her. Do you think you can stop the woman that I, Shimin Wenjian, want? If it wasn't for the Mo clan, I would have kicked you away long ago. Her talent is average, her qualifications are average, and her looks can't be compared to the two beautiful sisters. Damn it. Today is unavoidable. I have to teach her a lesson and show her the authority of a husband. Even after turning the world upside down, she still. Young master, Lung Ning Lu and Lung Ning Huan are with a brat. They seem very intimate. Just now, they were provoking Miss Mo. Their words were very unpleasant. That brat is very arrogant. Immediately after, a message from the communication talisman caused Shimin Wenjian, who had already stepped out of the cultivation room, to think of a way to not embarrass Mo Yuxian too much, to make the Lung sisters have a good impression of him, and to show off his valiant strength, to instantly turn extremely vicious. Who is that brat? I don't know, but he should be. He should be the young man they saved from the beast tide. His realm and aura are the same. And he's not from Heavenly Mist City. After receiving the reply, Shimin Wenjian instantly turned into a ray of light and dashed through the streets at a terrifying speed. He was at the peak of the late stage of the primordial soul realm, and had already broken through to the half-step to the manifestation realm. Even if he could not fly in the city, his speed was extremely shocking. Senior brother Fengyan, come over quickly. There's a good show to watch. The Lung sisters are here. Senior brother Jiang, there's a good show to watch in the challenge area. Come over quickly. For a time, countless cultivators fought to spread the news. Chapter 380. The beautiful sisters of the Lung clan and Mo Yuxian were the girls who had stirred up a storm in the Heavenly Mist City. In addition, Chen Hao, who seemed to be extremely arrogant, caused the entire martial arts practice field to explode. Especially the experts of the younger generation of the Heavenly Mist City. After the beast tide, everyone had made progress and were no longer satisfied with their rankings. They were originally paying attention to the situation in the challenge field. Once their opponents appeared, they would come over. The conflict between Chen Hao's group and Mo Yuxian had unknowingly ignited the flames of war among the younger generation of the Heavenly Mist City. When Shimin Wenjian quickly rushed to the challenge field, countless young experts of the Heavenly Mist City also used their fastest speed to rush to the challenge field. Miss Lung, I am not your opponent. I admit defeat. When an expert at the peak of the late stage of the embodiment realm obtained victory, Lung Ning Huan directly jumped into the challenge field. However, the winner tactfully chose to admit defeat, and said while clasping his fists. After saying that, he directly received his primal crystal stone reward, and jumped down from the challenge field. In the free exchange challenge field, anyone who entered the martial arts practice field had to pay an entrance fee of 1 high-grade primal crystal stone. Anyone who entered the challenge field had to pay a basic fee of 100 high-grade primal crystal stones. As long as you didn't lose, you could continue to stay on the challenge field. Moreover, winning the first match would give you 100 high-grade primal crystal stones. From the 1st to the 10th match, you would get 100 high-grade primal crystal stones. From the 11th to the 20th match, you would get 200 high-grade primal crystal stones. From the 21st to the 30th match, you would get 300 high-grade primal crystal stones. So on and so forth. The more consecutive victories, the more rewards you would get. Just now, this disciple had already won 3 matches in a row. He originally wanted to continue, but Lung Ning Li's appearance stopped his victory. However, after deducting the entrance fee and appearance fee, he still earned 199 high-grade primal crystal stones. Of course, other than the rewards set by the challenge field, challengers could also raise the stakes. The challenge field only took 1% of the stakes. Humph. Hiss. Mo Yuxian coldly snorted and suddenly turned into a stream of light, and rushed towards the challenge field. Lung Ninglu, if you have the guts, don't admit defeat. I will let you sisters and that arrogant brat, who doesn't know the immensity of heaven, fight. Before he even arrived, his provocative words drifted into the ears of the countless spectators who had gathered around. At this moment, other than a few disciples who were still fighting in the ring, all the spectators were crowding around Lung Ning Li's ring. It was so crowded that not even a drop of water could trickle through. Humph, shameless. You've been targeting us sisters for 3 years. Now that you're already at the late-stage Essence Soul Realm, you still dare to challenge me, a half-step Essence Soul Realm cultivator. You've gone too far. Not only are you old and ugly, you're also narrow-minded, suppressing the young and inexperienced, despicable and shameless. To think that you're called fairy you, I think you should be renamed to hag. Today my brother Hao will play with a hag like you, so I don't have to discuss myself anymore. Referee, I admit defeat. Whoosh. Lung Ninglu, who had always been a reserved person, had become sharp-tongued today because of Chen Hao's support. The moment Mo Yuxian stepped onto the stage, she immediately spoke out sharply. After she finished speaking, she jumped off the stage with a whoosh. At the same time, she took out 100 upper-grade primordial crystal stones and handed it to the referee who had reached the creation realm. In the past, the sisters could not hold back the anger in their hearts and would rather be injured than admit defeat. But now, firstly, Mo Yuxian's strength had increased again, so she did not have the ability to threaten her. Secondly, with Chen Hao's help, she would not be so stupid as to let this woman teach her a lesson. Moreover, the purpose of this visit was just to vent her anger. When they returned, they would be punished by the heavens. You. What did you say? Lung Ninglu, you're courting death. Hearing Lung Ningli's words, Mo Yuxian was instantly enraged. She did not expect Lung Ninglu, who had always swallowed her insults, to be so arrogant today. She did not take her seriously at all, and what made her even angrier was that she actually called her a hag. Boom. As Mo Yuxian spoke, she was so angry that her aura rose wildly. Her pretty face was filled with boundless killing intent and anger, making her look extraordinary. She was dressed in a snow-white dress, and not only was she not ugly, but she was also very beautiful. She should be elegant and refined like a fairy. However, at this moment, perhaps because of Lung Ningli's words, or perhaps because Mo Yuxian's expression and aura were too fierce, in the eyes of the crowd, there was indeed a hint of a hag. At this moment, everyone's eyes were focused on Chen Hao, who was being held by the Lung sisters. Lung Ningli's words made everyone understand that the sisters, who had been oppressed by Mo Yuxian for a long time, had come today to ask this handsome young man to help them vent their anger. However, although this young man had shocked everyone, his aura was only at the early stage of the primordial soul realm. How could he defeat Mo Yuxian, who was at the late stage of the primordial soul realm? Moreover, Mo Yuxian's talent and combat strength were obvious to all. When she was at the middle stage of the primordial soul realm, she was the second most powerful expert among the younger generation in Heavenly Mist City, second only to Shimin Wenjian. How could he help the sisters vent their anger? Moreover, Chen Hao had wantonly humiliated Mo Yuxian just now. Everyone could imagine that if Chen Hao dared to enter the arena, Mo Yuxian would definitely beat Chen Hao into a pig's head without mercy. Hiss! At this moment, everyone felt a blur before their eyes, and a figure suddenly appeared in front of them. Ah! Shimin Wenjian is here. Whoosh! Faced with the enormous pressure and extremely powerful aura, the densely packed crowd automatically parted to form a path. Countless gazes shifted from Chen Hao and the sisters to Shimin Wenjian. Shimin Wenjian had already begun to rush over when the sisters and Chen Hao stepped into the entrance of the challenge area. Under the reports of the communication talismans, he increased his speed time and time again, rushing over like a hurricane. At this moment, his figure was as straight as a sword, and his sword-like eyebrows were slightly raised. His eyes, which were as bright as stars, locked onto the figures of Chen Hao and the sisters from afar. Especially when he saw the intimate posture of the three of them, and under the gazes of tens of thousands of people, it made him feel as if he had eaten a mouthful of stinky dog shit, and he was burning with rage. He was the person who wanted to take the sisters away, but at this moment, the relationship between the sisters and Chen Hao was already like a louse on a monk's head, and the entire Heavenly Mist City knew about it. How could he take them away? Even if he took them away, he was afraid that he would be pointed at and talked about. How high would the cuckoldry be? This sudden change made it impossible for him not to be angry. Looking at the beautiful sisters leaning on Chen Hao's side like little birds, then looking at the arrogant, despotic and furious Mo Yuxian on the arena, Shimin Wenjian's heart was filled with rage. And all of this rage was directed at Chen Hao. Although Mo Yuxian couldn't be compared to the sisters, she was still Shimin Wenjian's Dao companion. If anyone dared to defecate or pee on Mo Yuxian, it would be the same as defecating or peeing on him, so how could he tolerate it? Hiss! Shimin Wenjian's sudden arrival made the sisters, who were a little expectant, start to worry, and they were just about to say something to Chen Hao, when their arms suddenly became empty, and Chen Hao suddenly turned into a flowing light and appeared on the arena. Crash! Countless spectators were in an uproar. Originally, most people didn't think that Chen Hao would go on the arena, and Chen Hao's sudden arrival made them think that even if Chen Hao had 10 guts, he wouldn't dare to go on the arena, but they didn't expect that at this moment, Chen Hao would go on the arena. Good. What, are you afraid? Are you still a man? No matter who you are, since you dared to insult me, Mo Yuxian, I will let you know the consequences of insulting me. It's okay to be a coward now, but if you have the guts, then be a coward for the rest of your life, and don't take a step out of Heavenly Mist City. No one can protect you. Trash, if you don't dare to go on the arena, then get lost. When Mo Yuxian saw that Chen Hao had come on the arena, her eyes shone with excitement, and she repeatedly said, "Good." But halfway through her words, her face became cold, and she looked at Chen Hao with disdain, and asked. The reason was that although Chen Hao had come on the arena, he didn't go on the arena, but stood at the edge of the arena. In the spectators' eyes, it seemed as if he had thought of retreating halfway through the arena. The crowd, which was in an uproar, suddenly started to hiss. I thought that he was an awesome person, but it turns out that he is just a coward. Tisk, I was wondering how powerful this guy would be if he was favored by the sisters. Turns out he's just a cowardly turtle. How boring. How can such a person be worthy of the beautiful sisters of the Lung family? Chen Hao was a little dumbfounded, and he was a little stunned. Since he had come out, he naturally wanted to fight, but since he had promised to avenge his beloved granddaughter, he naturally had to do it properly. Although there were no rules in this challenge, at most, he could only seriously injure him. It didn't have much meaning. Of course Chen Hao wanted to maximize the benefits, and he could raise the stakes here, right? Chen Hao was very clear about his realm, and in everyone's eyes he could only lose. Because of this, Chen Hao stood at the edge of the arena, and negotiated with the other party first, and it wouldn't be too late to go on the arena after the negotiation. Otherwise, if he went on the arena directly, if the other party didn't agree to his conditions, he could only fight. But he didn't expect that this woman's words were so vicious, and she looked as if she wanted to kill him. She didn't care at all whether he went on the arena or not. Under everyone's gaze, Chen Hao was only stunned for a moment, and after a short silence, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly, revealing a smile full of evil charm and arrogance. He didn't retreat, nor did he move forward, but he spoke. What? You want to identify whether I am a man or not? Sorry, I have no interest in a hag like you, and I don't have any sexual interest. If I fight with you, I'm afraid that I will be stained with your smell. Chen Hao's voice was neither angry nor angry, and it was as calm as water. Coupled with his devilish smile and the words he said, countless onlookers were dumbfounded. This is too arrogant, too vicious. Isn't it too untrue? He is obviously retreating, but he still wants to be a hero with his mouth. What does this mean? If you have the guts, why don't you go on the arena? If you don't dare to fight, then just don't dare to fight. Why do you have to say that you are afraid of being stained with the smell of a hag? Although Mo Yuxian wasn't as beautiful as the two beautiful sisters, she was still a rare beauty, and in the whole Heavenly Mist City, she was only second to the two beautiful sisters. Even though she had already become Shiman Wenjian's cultivation companion, 98 out of 100 men present here had sexual interest, and the two men who didn't have any sexual interest, one was probably a homosexual, and the other was probably a virgin. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Qidian. Come to vote for it, and your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 381. Mo Yuxian was so angry that her lips turned blue. She trembled and could not speak. She could not wait to strangle Chen Hao to death. But the rules of the war zone allowed her to maintain her last shred of rationality. If there's no prize, I'm too lazy to fight. 100,000 upper-grade primal crystal stones. Do you dare to bet? Chen Hao's expression changed, and his handsome face flashed with a wisp of coldness and arrogance as he spoke with a trace of provocation. Crash! Countless onlookers burst into an uproar when they heard Chen Hao's words. Ah! So he wants to bet. It's not that he doesn't dare to fight. 100,000 upper-grade primal crystal stones. That's not a small number. Could this kid be from the central continent? It seems that his combat strength must be very strong. Otherwise, he wouldn't dare to bet 100,000 upper-grade primal crystal stones. How strong can he be? This kid is really arrogant. He's only at the early stage of the primordial spirit realm, while Wuxia is at the late stage of the primordial spirit realm. She's the second strongest among the younger generation of our heavenly mist city. Does he think that he'll definitely win? I think he doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Even the monstrous geniuses of the central continent wouldn't dare to do that. After entering the primordial spirit realm, the difficulty of challenging someone of a higher level would increase exponentially. The difference between the early stage and the late stage was like heaven and earth. Even if this mysterious young man had the ability to challenge someone of a higher level, it was only against ordinary cultivators. How could he, who was 2 levels lower, defeat a top genius like Wuxia? 200,000 upper-grade primal crystal stones. Do you dare to bet? After a brief moment of shock, Wuxia's eyes shone with excitement as she stared at Chen Hao. Not only was she not afraid, she even increased the stakes. 200,000 upper-grade primal crystal stones. Chen Hao seemed to be a little hesitant. He frowned slightly as if he was thinking. He lowered his head and muttered to himself. Even if I lose, I still have a few 100,000 primal crystal stones. It's enough to play for a while. He suddenly looked up at Wuxia and said loudly, "Why not? It's just 200,000 upper-grade primal crystal stones." That expression, that tone, no matter how one looked at it, it was like he was an arrogant but brainless hedonistic disciple. He actually exposed his wealth in front of everyone, and acted like a prodigal son. Hundreds of thousands of primal crystals were enough for him to play with for a period of time. Those were high-grade primal crystals, not middle-grade or low-grade primal crystals. However, while everyone felt that Chen Hao was a little retarded, they also began to speculate about Chen Hao's identity. A disciple who could carry hundreds of thousands or even millions of high-grade primal crystal stones with him. What kind of shocking background did he have? At least, in the heavenly mist city, there wasn't a single family's disciple who could be so wealthy. As Chen Hao spoke, he had already jumped into the ring. At the same time, he handed the 2 storage rings to the referee. 300,000. Do you dare? To Chen Hao's surprise, Wuxia said again at this time. As he spoke, he took out 3 storage rings as well. This was the most she could take out. Originally, when she said 200,000, she was worried that it would exceed Chen Hao's bottom line. However, now that the 200,000 was confirmed, and Chen Hao had already stepped into the ring, why not try another 300,000? In her eyes, Chen Hao's realm and aura didn't pose any threat at all. He was simply a typical prodigal son, or a guy who loved gambling as much as his life. Chen Hao frowned again, but after a slight pause he said arrogantly, "Let's bet, I'm not afraid." The 2 beautiful sisters looked at each other and frowned. Obviously, they didn't expect Chen Hao to play to this extent. However, when they thought of their grandfather saying that Chen Hao's wealth was more than all the savings of the Lung family, they understood. Although they had a lot of money, 300,000 was indeed like a game in his eyes. Moreover, Chen Hao might not necessarily lose. Just an idiot. Shimin Wenjian, whose face was livid, was obviously going to fly into a rage. However, at this moment, his expression relaxed, and he thought to himself. Wuxia was his cultivation partner, and Chen Hao's words just now were humiliating his cultivation partner in front of him and the whole world. How could Shimin Wenjian tolerate it? However, he endured it. After all, Chen Hao hadn't stepped down from the edge of the ring, and whether to fight or not had not been decided yet. If he showed up, what if Chen Hao was scared off? Now it was proven that he was right to endure it. Wuxia, I still have 500,000 high-grade primordial crystal stones. Since this guy is so arrogant, do you think we should be afraid? Take it. Teach this idiot who doesn't know his limits a good lesson with me. Chi, 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 chi. 5 storage rings immediately flew to Wuxia. Wuxia was delighted. When Shimin Wenjian came, she was more or less nervous. After all, she knew what Shimin Wenjian was thinking. This time, she suppressed the beautiful sisters of the Lung family again, and she was afraid that she would be questioned by Shimin Wenjian. However, at this moment, Shimin Wenjian made a move at this time, and obviously he didn't blame her. "Who the fuck are you calling an idiot?" To everyone's surprise, Chen Hao, who was on the ring, actually turned his head and pointed at Shimin Wenjian from afar. His appearance was as if someone had stepped on his tail, and he vividly displayed the arrogance of a good-for-nothing disciple. He said, 500,000 primordial crystal stones, and you dare to show off in front of me? If you have the guts, bring out a few million or 10 million. I have plenty. Swish. As Chen Hao spoke, he suddenly took out a few dozen storage rings that were exactly the same, and they were obviously filled with 100,000 high-grade primordial crystal stones. It directly blinded everyone's eyes. The beautiful sisters of the Lung family were speechless. Although they didn't have much contact with Chen Hao's previous performance was not related to his current appearance. It was very obvious that Chen Hao's current actions were clearly intentional. He raised the stakes step by step. This also made the beautiful sisters gradually believe that Chen Hao really had the confidence to defeat Mo Yuxian. Otherwise, he wouldn't have done this. "Judge, here are 500,000. Chen Hao sent out a beam of energy and directly sent 5 storage rings to the judge. His eyes were full of provocation and disdain as he looked at Shimin Wenjian, who was below the ring, and said, "Come on. How many do you have? I'll take them all." Shimin Wenjian's face became extremely ugly. Even he didn't expect Chen Hao's wealth to be so shocking. He also didn't expect that Chen Hao would dare to take out so many primordial crystal stones to bet. This made Shimin Wenjian a little suspicious. Did Chen Hao have a powerful trump card? Otherwise, no matter how idiotic he was, he wouldn't give away so many primordial crystal stones, right? After pondering for a while, Shimin Wenjian said coldly, "I don't carry so many primordial crystal stones with me. Kid, if you want to bet big, how about we fight? I'll take you on however many primordial crystal stones you have. As long as you dare, I can go and prepare now." "Is that so? Then go and prepare. If you lose 10 primordial crystal stones, don't show off in front of me. Get lost as far as you can. Hag, we can start now," Chen Hao said arrogantly. As he spoke, the aura around him suddenly soared at a terrifying speed. Emph. Clang. Facing the rascally Chen Hao, Mo Yuxian didn't want to waste time talking nonsense. She snorted coldly and directly drew her sword out of the sheath. A terrifying aura instantly spread out. Her eyes were filled with monstrous anger, and she couldn't wait to smash Chen Hao into pieces. "How should I address you, young master?" At this moment, the judge asked. Chen Hao said. Since they were going to fight, they naturally had to announce their names. "Good, Mo Yuxian Chen Hao. The bet for this battle is 1,600,000 high-grade primordial crystal stones. Both of you, please take your places," the judge said in an excited voice. A battle with such high stakes was unprecedented among the younger generation. The judge was naturally a little excited. Clang! Boom! The moment the judge announced the start of the battle, Chen Hao drew his sword out of the sheath and took a step forward. On the other hand, Mo Yuxian charged at Chen Hao violently. When they were 1,000 feet apart, she stabbed out with her sword. The brilliant sword light contained mysterious runes that vividly displayed the power of her late-stage primordial soul realm. The terrifying energy and pressure caused the heavens and earth to tremble. Wherever the sword light passed, the space seemed to be torn apart. Once an expert made a move, one would know whether or not they were skilled. Mo Yuxian's sword strike had shocked countless young disciples. Even some middle-aged and elderly experts had a look of admiration on their faces. As the second most powerful expert of the younger generation, Mo Yuxian indeed had talent and combat power that ordinary people couldn't reach. However, the aura and power that Chen Hao displayed at this moment was even more shocking. Although he was only at the early stage primordial soul realm, the sword light that he emitted was not much weaker than Mo Yuxian's. Boom! The moment the sword light collided, there was a huge explosion. The raging energy directly caused the arena to be riddled with holes. Under the horrified gaze of the crowd, Chen Hao retreated 100 feet in the face of the terrifying energy shock. On the other hand, Mo Yuxian's body only paused for a moment before she charged at Chen Hao violently again. At the same time, she continuously swung her sword. In the first exchange, Chen Hao was obviously at a disadvantage. Even so, the way the crowd looked at Chen Hao changed. Before the battle, most people thought that the furious Mo Yuxian would probably severely injure Chen Hao in one move. There was not much suspense in this battle. But now, although Chen Hao was at a disadvantage, he only retreated 100 feet and did not suffer any injuries. What did this mean? It meant that Chen Hao actually had the ability to challenge a top genius like Mo Yuxian. As expected, he has the right to be arrogant. Unfortunately, this kid has overestimated his own strength. Third brother, quickly go back to grandfather and report the situation. Tell him that I want 10 million high-grade primordial crystal stones. No matter how much this kid hides, I'm confident that I can win. Shimin Wenjian stared coldly at the two people who had already started fighting in the arena, as he spoke to a young man beside him. Sister, do you think he's faking it? He hasn't used the destruction sword principle. I think so. Lele, his goal seems to be to challenge Shimin Wenjian. But it's said that Shimin Wenjian cultivated the illusion sword principle to the peak of the mastery stage a year ago. Grandfather said that he might have already condensed his sword principle will into a sword soul. Then what should we do now? I really don't know how he has so many primordial crystal stones. It turns out that he's borrowing from us. If he really wants to fight with Shimin Wenjian. Sister, why don't we inform grandfather? If you like this work, you're welcome to vote for it at Chidian. Com. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 382. Chi. Chi. Boom. Boom. In an instant, the two of them were engaged in close combat. After stepping into the primordial spirit realm, the energy around one's body would return to its original state. One could condense all the true core strength in one's body and sword. Every move they made seemed ordinary, but the power they unleashed was terrifying. What surprised Chen Hao was that Mo Yuxian's sword skill was extremely unpredictable, appearing and disappearing like a ghost, as if there was no path to follow, with a myriad of changes, each strike aimed at Chen Hao's vital points. Fortunately, Chen Hao had already turned the solitary sword technique into his instinct. Under the suppression of his opponent's strength, he was still swift and fierce. He used offense as defense and used the profundity of his strength to the extreme. Amazing! Mo Yuxian has cultivated the Misty Sword technique to the highest level. She deserves to be the second expert in Heavenly Mist City. Chen Hao is even more amazing. He is obviously suppressed, but he is not flustered at all. What is more amazing is that he can seize every opportunity and use offense as defense. If it were not for his inferior strength, Mo Yuxian would definitely not be his opponent. That's not necessarily true. Mo Yuxian's strongest point is not her swordsmanship, but her palm technique. The power of the Mo family's extermination palm is not to be underestimated. I just don't know what level she has reached. Humph. If this is all you have, you will be defeated. Extermination palm. For a full 5 minutes, Mo Yuxian thought that she could defeat Chen Hao with her sword skills, but she didn't expect that Chen Hao's fighting strength was so strong. She obviously had the absolute advantage in strength, but she always felt like she was being attacked by Chen Hao's attacks. She couldn't display the power of her Misty Sword secret art at all. She was in a rage and finally couldn't bear it anymore. After exchanging a blow, she abruptly retreated and shouted in a delicate voice. She waved her hand and slapped out. Boom. In the blink of an eye, a palm shadow that exuded an aura of extermination rose into the air. It was at least 1,000 feet in radius and violently enveloped Chen Hao. The spiritual qi of heaven and earth within a radius of several hundred miles surged crazily, causing the sound of air being torn apart. The momentum was extremely shocking. What a powerful force. Great accomplishment of the extermination palm? How is this possible? It's because of the gloves. High-grade spirit treasure. It must be a high-grade spirit treasure. When they saw this, aside from Shimin Wenjian, a hint of shock shone in the eyes of all the onlookers. Extermination Palm was the Mahis clan's strongest ultimate technique, and only blessed realm martial artists could practice it to mastery realm. But now Mo Wuxian, who was only at the late primordial spirit realm, was displaying the aura of the Extermination Palm, which clearly far exceeded her cultivation level. Fuck, if I had known earlier, I would have reminded her. If I had tied or lost this match, it would have been over. At the very least, this brat would have been seriously injured. He would definitely not bet with me again. At this moment, Shimin Wenjian cursed inwardly. He had only made a verbal promise to Chen Hao. If Chen Hao went back on his word, there was nothing he could do. This was a loss of tens of millions of high-grade primordial crystal stones. Even for him, it was a huge fortune. Therefore, at this moment, he was a little regretful that he had not reminded Mo Wuxian. He even hoped that Chen Hao could use some kind of powerful trump card to block Mo Wuxian's move. Palm technique? Palm technique then. Feeling Mo Wuxian's powerful palm, Chen Hao's fighting spirit rose crazily, and his powerful soul power was instantly raised to the extreme. He crazily activated the true essence in his body, and like a river bursting through a dam, it rushed out along a special route in his meridians. There was no energy overflowing, but the aura of his whole body caused a violent explosion in the surrounding air. What was more shocking was that the color of Chen Hao's skin actually changed at this moment. It shone with a faint golden light, giving off a metallic texture. What kind of body refining technique is this? So powerful. Could it be the legendary Immortal God King's Immortal Golden Body Technique? Impossible. The Immortal Golden Body Technique has been lost for a long time. This kid is so young, how could he have mastered it? Even a manifestation realm expert with the immortal bloodline would not be able to do it, let alone him. Moreover, if the Immortal Golden Body Technique is mastered, his whole body should be golden, like a golden man. He is only emitting a trace of golden light. It must be some kind of powerful body refining technique. When Chen Hao's skin shone with a golden light, the countless elites who had rushed over to watch the fight, including the Blessed Realm elites who had already raised their auras to the max and were prepared to save Chen Hao at any moment, had shocked expressions appear on their faces. The Immortal God King, in the whole Boundless Lands cultivation world, was a well-known existence, and there were many legends about him. 10,000 years ago, he was a top expert whose name shook the Immortal Dao, Demon Dao, and Demon Dao. Although he was not the strongest in battle, no one dared to offend him because of his abnormal physical body, which was close to the immortal realm. His self-created technique, the Immortal Golden Body Technique, was famous in the whole Boundless Land, and almost all the disciples in the cultivation world could see it in the historical materials of their sections. According to legend, the Immortal Golden Body Technique was the only peerless technique that could be cultivated to the point of immortal bloodline. Once activated, the physical body would turn golden, and one's strength would skyrocket, and his defense would be extremely strong. Ow 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 ow. Without giving the crowd too much time to be surprised, Chen Hao violently blasted out with his palms, and in an instant, it was as if he had turned into 18 giant dragons, brazenly meeting Mo Wuxian's terrifying extermination palm. Boom. Terrifying energy swept out like a hurricane. The instant the palms came into contact with each other, it exploded with a rumble. The protective barrier of the stage could not block the sound waves. They were like bolts of lightning that exploded in the ears of the crowd. Some of the young disciples who had gathered from the low-level arenas to watch the battle were directly shaken to the point of bleeding from their 7 orifices, and they screamed repeatedly. At this moment, even the primordial spirit realm experts activated their energy to protect themselves. Countless people widened their eyes in shock, and the 2 beautiful sisters sucked in a breath of cold air. Just a moment ago, when they saw Mo Wuxian's terrifying strength, they were worried for Chen Hao, and their hearts were in their throats. But now all of that was replaced by shock. Obviously, even they did not expect that Chen Hao's strongest points were his body-refining technique and palm technique. This kid is actually so strong? Shimin Wenjian also widened his eyes in horror. Mo Wuxian relied on an upper-grade spiritual treasure to display the power of the extermination palm, and he knew very well how strong it was. Even if he wanted to take it, he would have to use his ultimate move. Originally, he had thought that Chen Hao would definitely lose, and he was very depressed, afraid that Chen Hao would shrink back and not fight with him. But now, the power that Chen Hao displayed, although the final result had not been seen, made him understand that Mo Yuxian was probably unable to defeat Chen Hao. That's good. Then let me handle it. In the arena, Chen Hao and Mo Yuxian rolled back at the same time. While they were still in the void, they spat out blood. However, Chen Hao only rolled for a few hundred meters, and then he stabilized himself. With a light shout, he suddenly rushed toward Mo Yuxian, who was still rolling. Stop. Chen Hao, she has lost. At this moment, the referee suddenly released an extremely powerful energy, which seemed to have condensed into a soft and elastic energy ball, so that Chen Hao was not shaken, and could not move forward. Lost. Mo Yuxian's aura can no longer be used, and your attack now will be fatal. You win. The referee said straightforwardly. I didn't lose, I didn't lose. At this moment, Mo Yuxian suddenly shouted in a stern voice. She was full of unwillingness and anger. Then let's continue, I have no objection. Chen Hao wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said. In Chen Hao's view, there was no clear winner. Although he had raised his physical strength to the extreme, and activated his strongest palm technique, the dragon subduing palm. But in the end, it was a tie. He did not expect that the referee would give him the victory. The referee shook his head and also released an energy to stop Mo Yuxian, and said, Mo Yuxian, you should know the rules of the challenge area. As the referee, I can't let any genius die in the arena. Just now, your aura was stagnant, and Chen Hao could kill you. This is fair. Go down. Hiss. Mo Yuxian was directly sent out of the arena by the referee. This is the bet you deserve. Put it away. Chen Hao wins. The challenge continues. After the referee took the 1% commission, he put all the bets in front of Chen Hao. The protective barrier of the arena was temporarily removed. Hiss. Right at this moment, Shiman Wenjian ascended the combat ring swiftly like a bolt of lightning. However, he stopped at the edge as well, and he stared at Chen Hao with a cold expression as he said, Amazing, amazing. I didn't expect your combat strength to be so strong. Boy, you won't regret what you said just now, right? I can wait for you to recover to your peak state. What I said just now. What did I say? 10 million high-grade primal crystal stones. Why? Are you going to regret it? Well, do you have 10 million? Chen Hao's handsome face flashed with a trace of evil charm, and he asked in reply. At most an hour, I promise I have it. Sorry, I don't have time to wait. I won't wait after the deadline. Referee, that's all for today. I win this battle, and there are still 100 high-grade primal crystal stones as a reward, right? Cough cough. Yes. Are you sure you don't want to continue? The referee thought there was a bigger commission waiting for him. Unexpectedly, Chen Hao did not want to continue the battle, and even asked for the 100 high-grade primal crystal stones as a reward. Was this still the playboy who squandered money like it was dirt? I'm sure. Okay then. Here you go. Boy, are you kidding me? Shiman Wenjian's face became extremely ugly, and he stared at Chen Hao and said eerily, You just realized? Do you think I'm an idiot? Who doesn't know that you've condensed a sword soul, and it's hard to guarantee that you won't be like that hag, and have a high-grade spiritual treasure. I'm just at the early stage of the primordial soul realm, and although I've cultivated some body refining techniques, and it's not a problem for me to deal with that hag, as for you, I don't want to be a boy who gives money away. If there's a chance in the future, let's spar again. Chen Hao smiled and flew to the side of the sisters. The sisters were a little dumbfounded and could not react for a moment. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Qidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 383. Under everyone's gazes, the beautiful sisters of the Lung family surrounded Chen Hao and walked out of the free exchange battle area at a leisurely pace that seemed slow but was actually fast. Chen Hao, who was extraordinarily handsome, looked calm and composed. He stood out from the crowd, and did not look like a good-for-nothing disciple at all. It was only at this moment that everyone faintly noticed that Chen Hao's frivolous actions before the battle that seemed like a farce were done intentionally, and it just so happened that he'd successfully deceived everyone. Although he was only at the early stage of the primordial soul realm, the combat power he displayed was admirable. In particular, Mo Yuxian had displayed strength that was beyond her level, but Chen Hao still won. Moreover, he seemed to have won easily. Although he had chosen to avoid Shimin Wenjian in the end, no one felt that there was anything wrong with it. As Chen Hao had said, most people had heard that Shimin Wenjian had already condensed a sword soul, and might even have a high-grade spiritual treasure to help him. Moreover, he was at the peak of the late stage of the primordial soul realm. Chen Hao's choice to avoid him was a very wise decision. My good granddaughter, is this enough? Lung Ninglu turned to look at Chen Hao's handsome side profile and asked, It's enough. God grandfather Chen you provoked Shimin Wenjian on purpose? Unknowingly, there was a trace of admiration in the sister's eyes. You can't say that I did it on purpose. Chen Hao said calmly, Grandfather, I thought that I could fight Shimin Wenjian, but something went wrong. Something went wrong. Something went wrong with cultivation. It's a pity that we lost 10 million high-grade primordial crystal stones. But that's about it. They didn't go too far, so we can't be too ruthless. Take these primordial crystal stones we won as compensation from Mo Yuxian. Ah, thank you, God grandfather. God grandfather, you're the best. The sisters accepted the primordial crystal stones without any hesitation. Who asked this God grandfather to be so rich? Anyway, these primordial crystal stones were just a drop in the ocean to him. But to them, it was not a small fortune. Brother. Right at this moment, the space suddenly fluctuated, and the old man Lung Kongya strangely appeared in front of the three of them. When he saw the beautiful sisters and Chen Hao sticking together with a happy and sweet look on their faces, the old man's face was immediately filled with black lines as he exclaimed, Brother? Why are you here? Grandfather. The two beautiful sisters released Chen Hao at the same time, and respectfully saluted Lung Kongya. Lung Kongya glared at the two girls, and then he looked at Chen Hao and said, The two girls said that you want to challenge Shimin Wenjian, and you want to bet 10 million? That's it. Did you lose? No, God grandfather didn't fight with Shimin Wenjian. We won against Mo Yuxian and earned 800,000 high-grade primal crystal stones. God grandpa gave it to us. Lung Ning said happily. It's okay. Let's go back first. Lung Kongya sent out 3 bursts of energy that directly enveloped the 3 of them. The space fluctuated, and after a moment, the 4 of them returned to the Lung clan. When Lung Kongya learned the details from the beautiful sisters, his face was filled with a complicated and speechless expression. Especially when he learned that the beautiful sisters used Chen Hao as a shield to attack Shimin Wenjian. It made him even more depressed. What the fuck is this? The reputation of the beautiful sisters, at least in the entire Heavenly Mist City, was probably finished. What should he do? Should he announce that Chen Hao was his sworn brother? This was undoubtedly the best way. However, if he really did that, firstly, the efforts of the beautiful sisters would be wasted, and secondly, when he saw the beautiful sisters together with Chen Hao, he already faintly felt a dangerous aura. This aura made him intuitively feel as if he had made a wrong move from the beginning, and he felt as if he had lifted a rock and smashed it on his own feet. The old man could only turn a blind eye to it, and wait for the future situation before making a final judgment. Phew! 3 days later, in the cultivation room, Chen Hao let out a long sigh of relief, and woke up from the comprehension of the secular sword principle. At this moment, his whole body was covered with sparkling and translucent sweat, and his clothes had long been soaked. He looked like a drowned rat that had been drenched by a rainstorm, and his face was a little pale. This mortal sword Dao is really extremely difficult. If I want to truly comprehend it, it's utterly not something that can be accomplished in a short period of time. The general outline of the Grand Tao is useless towards comprehending it. Chen Hao thought in his heart. No one knew that Chen Hao had provoked Shimin Wenjian, because he really wanted to fight with him. However, when he faced Mo Yuxian, he was depressed to find that the secular sword principle had shrunk to one side like a tortoise when he didn't have the intention to kill her. No matter how hard he tried, He couldn't activate the aura of the destruction sword principle. It was fleeting and unpredictable, and he couldn't exert any power at all. That was his only confidence in challenging Shimin Wenjian. If he couldn't use it, how could he fight? That was asking for trouble. If it weren't for the fact that his physical body had broken through its limits again and again in the terrifying beast tide, and had been refined by the primary outline of the Great Path to become so powerful that it surprised even him, he wouldn't have been able to deal with Mo Yuxian. Although the judge had declared him the winner, he knew that he only had the advantage of his body and soul. If he really went all out, he might not be able to defeat Mo Yuxian. At most, Mo Yuxian would die, and he would be seriously injured. Spiritual weapons can't meet my needs anymore. I have to get some spiritual treasures. I can't rely too much on equipment and weapons, but I have to be prepared. It's better to be safe than sorry. Unfortunately, I still lack the fire essence jade marrow to fuse with the old god. He had found the celestial stone, the dark iron soul, and several kinds of materials for the next step of fusion, but there was still no trace of the fire essence jade marrow. According to the mysterious existence, the fire essence jade marrow could only appear in the core of a volcano that was millions of years old. It was a kind of spiritual object of heaven and earth with a certain level of intelligence. Once this material was fused, the ability to control fire would reach the extreme, and it was definitely one of the most important factors in refining weapons and pills. No matter, I'll think of a way to find it after entering the central continent. The two little girls attracted the heavenly punishment today. As their grandfather, I have to go and see. The Lung sisters attracted the heavenly punishment. It was definitely a big matter for the Lung family. Tens of thousands of disciples of the Lung family all gathered at the back mountain of the Lung family, a place where disciples could attract the heavenly punishment. On the huge mountain peak, the Lung sisters were already sitting cross-legged, and the essence, energy, and spirit of their bodies were slowly revolving. Obviously, they had reached their peak state in all aspects. Brother, there shouldn't be a problem, right? When Chen Hao arrived, he was directly called to Lung Kongye's side. No problem. In these 3 days, Huan and Lei have refined several kinds of elixirs that you gave them. Although the heavenly punishment is powerful, it shouldn't be a problem for them to withstand it. Are they going to attract the heavenly punishment at the same time, or one by one? At the same time. Their mind, bloodline, and realm are completely the same, and they have telepathy. When they attract the heavenly punishment at the same time, they can combine the heavenly punishment into one, increasing its power by more than 3 times. This is a good thing for them. Brother, I have something to discuss with you. What is it? Huan and Lei are 2 years older than you, and because of Shimin Wenjian's matter, the whole heavenly mist city treats you as their Tao companion. Since you've already done this, I feel that you should keep it a secret for the time being. When you're in front of others, don't make things difficult for the 2 girls, and just let them call you Brother Hao. Also, don't call me old brother in front of others. This is no problem. I was wondering why you directly sealed off our conversation, so it was because you were worried about this. Cough cough. But brother, you must always remember that you're their grandfather. Lung Kongye reminded him a little awkwardly. This was also something that couldn't be helped. Before the problem of the Lung family's descendants was solved, the sisters were the only support of the Lung family. In the future, they had to inherit the Lung family's business and incense. A person like Chen Hao obviously wouldn't be bound to a small family like the Lung family, and he didn't meet his requirements at all. However, the reason why Lung Kongye relaxed a little of his control over the 2 girls and Chen Hao was because he, who had obtained 7 mutated immortal fruits, didn't have to worry about this matter for the time being. Moreover, he had a new plan. His sons had failed to live up to his expectations, and he was forced into a corner, so he could only erupt once again. Of course, he had to do it secretly, otherwise, he would be laughed at by the world. An hour later, the sisters finally attracted the heavenly punishment at the same time under the anticipation of the Lung family's members. 2 terrifying tribulation clouds condensed above their heads at the same time. At first, they were separated by 3,000 feet, but as time passed, the 2 terrifying tribulation clouds actually started to fuse due to the special connection between the sisters. It was the first time Chen Hao saw the birth of a fused tribulation cloud. Although its might was far from being as terrifying as his tribulation cloud, when he released his powerful soul perception to probe, Chen Hao's black eyes shone with a trace of extraordinary splendor. He gradually closed his eyes and immersed himself in the process of comprehending the fusion of tribulation clouds. Crack! Boom! The heavenly punishment finally descended. It was also at this moment that the sisters suddenly stood in the air, clenched their fists, and raised their heads to welcome the terrifying heavenly punishment. At the same time, Chen Hao also suddenly opened his eyes, and there was a trace of surprise in his eyes as he looked at the sisters. Amazing! Amazing! This kind of mysterious heavenly punishment fusion and superimposition has increased the power of their heavenly punishment by more than 3 times. It's a pity that the time is too short, and the fusion is too fast. Chen Hao thought to himself with a little excitement and regret. This kind of mysterious fusion method had completely exceeded Chen Hao's understanding. Chen Hao was very clear about the power of fusion techniques, but he could only fuse techniques that complemented each other's attributes, or fuse energies that did not contradict each other. However, the heavenly punishment of the sisters was completely the same heavenly punishment, and they would definitely repel each other. However, they had actually fused together. What did this mean? This meant that as long as Chen Hao could comprehend this mysterious fusion method, he would be able to fuse all of his ultimate techniques, battle skills, and various attribute mysteries, and energy into one. How much would his battle prowess increase by? It was unimaginable. In the new month, can you give your guaranteed monthly vote to Dark Mountain? Thank you. Chapter 384. Chen Hao didn't stay for long. After confirming that the sisters had successfully resisted the heavenly punishment, he returned to his room. The beautiful sisters needed to go into seclusion for a period of time to stabilize their realm, and Chen Hao had a new understanding. Moreover, he also needed to comprehend the secular sword principle as soon as possible. Even if he couldn't exert its power, he had to find a way to not drop the ball. Otherwise, this strongest sword principle would really be of little value. In the blink of an eye, 2 months had passed. During this time, Shiman Wenjian, led by Patriarch Shiman, paid a visit to the Lung clan. His main purpose was to investigate the situation of the Lung sisters. However, he was tactfully rejected by Lung Kongya. Although Lung Kongya didn't say it explicitly, he knew that the sisters already had someone in their hearts. As for who it was, Shiman Wenjian naturally guessed that it was Chen Hao. However, ever since Chen Hao defeated Mo Yuxian, he never appeared in Heavenly Mist City again. However, the rumors about Chen Hao were investigated by some people. Although there were many people with the same name, they still locked onto the leading figure of the Eastern Continent's younger generation, Chen Hao. After 2 months, the Lung sisters finally stabilized their realm and aura, and came out of seclusion at the same time. That night, under Lung Kongya's personal escort, 3 figures stepped into the giant teleportation array from Heavenly Mist City to the Central Continent. At this point, Chen Hao had finally arrived at the legendary Eastern Continent, the strongest region of the boundless world, after 1 year and 4 months after leaving the Eastern Continent. The Central Continent is the core area of the boundless world. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth is extremely dense, and dangerous places are everywhere. The immortal Tao, devil Tao, and demon Tao coexist. There are countless powerful sects and clans. Among the 3 Tao, the top ones are the Limitless Immortal Palace, Limitless Devil Palace, and Limitless Demon Palace. Apart from the 3 Tao, there are also a few powerful races that are enough to deter the Central Continent. No one can truly rule the Central Continent. A terrifying beast tide can erupt anytime and anywhere. It is the most dangerous region in the entire boundless world. The Central Continent is the real battlefield between the boundless world, which is also the boundless planet, and the foreign demon beasts, alien races, and other invaders. Countless cultivators had risen here, and countless cultivators had fallen here as well. Here, every cultivator has the responsibility of protecting the boundless continent. The one who dominates the entire middle continent is not the Limitless Immortal Palace, nor the Limitless Demon Palace. Instead, It is an alliance of forces that spread across the entire Middle Continent, regardless of righteous or evil, regardless of race, regardless of the three paths. These forces are all forces jointly established by some top experts. Everything is based on strength, maintaining the fairest competition. Regardless of age or cultivation, the best way for a cultivator who has stepped into the Central Continent to obtain the greatest amount of treasures and wealth is to join one of these organizations. There are no restrictions on them, and they don't have to bear the obligations of a sect or clan. Chen Hao organized all the information about the Central Continent in his mind. After more than a year, he was finally going to set foot on the powerful Central Continent. He couldn't help but feel a trace of excitement. It was a dragon and an insect. Here, it was the true beginning. The glory of the past had become a thing of the past. When he stepped onto this land, he was just a rookie. Everything had to start from scratch. Bound by the binding talisman, Chen Hao stood in the middle with the beautiful sisters tightly hugging his arm. The beautiful sisters, who were stepping into the Central Continent for the first time, were also excited. They were filled with anticipation for their future journey, but they were also a little nervous and lost. They had grown up in Heavenly Mist City. Apart from occasionally going out to see the world under the guidance of their grandfather, they didn't have a chance to experience the world by themselves. Therefore, they were naturally excited and nervous at this moment. The teleportation array from any city to the Central Continent wouldn't teleport to a specific city. Instead, it would teleport to a random region. As for where it would be teleported to, it was impossible to determine. In fact, they had to stay in the teleportation channel for at least half a day. This was equivalent to teleporting to a higher plane. Without sufficient strength, it was impossible to obtain the qualifications to survive in the Central Continent. This kind of teleportation was equivalent to an indirect test. Only after fulfilling the requirement for half a day would the teleportation be successful. Otherwise, they would be sent back. Chi-Chi, in the transparent and mysterious teleportation channel, endless darkness entered their eyes. Occasionally, there would be a flash of light, but with their cultivation they couldn't sense it at all. After more than 10 minutes, the teleportation continued. This was the first time the three of them experienced a teleportation channel that had a concept of time. Moreover, their minds were completely clear. As time passed, when an hour had passed, a violent energy and pressure suddenly assaulted them, causing the three of them to wake up from their excited state of mind. It's time to test us. Huan Lele, I won't be helping the two of you in this passageway. Chen Hao's pitch-black eyes sparkled as he glanced at the two girls and said, "Yes, God grandfather, we will definitely pass." The two beautiful sisters said at the same time. Their beautiful faces flickered with a wisp of determination. That's good. As time passed, the pressure produced by the energy became greater and greater. The pressure also became stronger and stronger. The impact on the physical body and soul also became greater and greater. For hours later, the two beautiful sisters had already closed their eyes. Their delicate bodies trembled slightly as they hugged Chen Hao's arm tightly. The energy around their bodies was also activated. Quan Fu's body and mind were immersed in resisting the dual pressure of the physical body and soul. According to Lung Kongya, ordinary cultivators could only withstand the teleportation channel's test after reaching the peak of the mid-stage primordial soul realm. However, the two beautiful sisters' talent, combat strength, and temperament were much stronger than ordinary cultivators. Although they were only at the early stage primordial soul realm, they would definitely pass as long as there were no accidents. There was no need to worry. Unlike the two beautiful sisters, Chen Hao opened his eyes and looked at the endless darkness and the occasional flickering light. His handsome face was calm, and did not even need to activate the slightest bit of energy. This little bit of physical and mental pressure had no effect on him at all. As the pressure became greater and greater, the sisters' energy also became stronger and stronger. They could not help but hug Chen Hao's arm harder and harder. Although Chen Hao tried his best to restrain his mind and not feel the charm and gentleness coming from his arm, the sisters' strength could not help but hit Chen Hao's cranial nerves again and again. When he accidentally lowered his head to look at the two girls, he could see two white twin peaks that had been squeezed out of shape through their necklines. Compared to men, Women are really too inconvenient. If I'm not careful, I'll be taken advantage of. Calm down, calm down. This is my god-granddaughter. Chen Hao muttered in his heart. He could not help but sigh at his charm. When the two beautiful sisters were in front of their grandfather, they would always keep a distance from him, and would not dare to be too intimate. However, when their grandfather was not around, they would always use him as a shield and directly stick to him, hugging his arm like little birds. It was as if they were very attached to this feeling. They did it so naturally that Chen Hao could not refuse. They were his granddaughters, weren't they? It seemed normal for them to seek a sense of security from him. However, whether it was Chen Hao himself or the two beautiful sisters, they all felt that this grandfather-granddaughter relationship was more or less a little absurd. Hiss. Half a day later, violent fluctuations suddenly came from the teleportation channel, and bright rays of light bloomed. The two beautiful sisters who were immersed in suffering suddenly felt their bodies and minds lighten, and all the pressure disappeared. At the same time, their essence, qi, and spirit seemed to be bathed in warm sunlight and completely recovered in a moment. We passed. The two girls opened their eyes at the same time, and said with a trace of excitement and surprise. However, when they saw that the two of them were hugging each other, and Chen Hao was standing beside them with a whip tied around their slender waists, looking like he was leading a pet, the two of them were stunned at the same time and said, "God, Grandpa, what are you doing? Why are you tying us up?" The energy storm is too strong, and it can be said to be turbulent. God, Grandpa can't bear it, so I can only use this method. And it's fine now. We're about to reach the central continent, Chen Hao said with a serious expression on his handsome face. As he spoke, he untied the whip. "Oh, God, Grandpa, can we discuss something with you?" The two girls didn't seem to understand the meaning behind Chen Hao's words. After obtaining their freedom, they stuck to Chen Hao's side at the same time. Lung Ningla looked up at Chen Hao and said with a hint of coquettishness, "What is it? When we reach the central continent, we want to follow God, Grandpa, but with our age and appearance. If we keep calling you God, Grandpa, even if we don't feel awkward, God, Grandpa will feel awkward too, right? Elder sister and I have already discussed before coming here. How about we call you young master, okay? The two of us will pretend to be God, Grandpa's subordinates." "Young master, you can't. Besides, you can't be my subordinates. Otherwise, how can I explain it to elder brother? In front of others, you can just call me elder brother or boss. However, the two of you can't be so intimate with God, Grandpa in the future. God, Grandpa is young, and it will affect your reputation. Besides, if the four of you mistresses misunderstand, God, Grandpa won't be able to explain it. That's fine. Why don't you introduce us to them first? Grandpa said that they are all at Limitless Immortal Palace. How about we go to Limitless Immortal Palace to find them first? Limitless Immortal Palace isn't that easy to find. Furthermore, it's not a place where we can go whenever we want to. Just do as I say, we're almost there." Chi chi chi. Just as Chen Hao finished speaking, the space tunnel suddenly disappeared. The three of them instantly turned into three streams of light, and appeared in the void. A desolate and ancient aura blew against their faces. The sky was filled with thick dark clouds. It was gloomy and oppressive, but it was also filled with dense heaven and earth spiritual energy. I recommend a novel Seeking Death. It's a Xuanhuan type of book that is worth reading. If you're interested, please support it. If you like this novel, you're welcome to come to Qidian. Come to vote. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 385. After a brief moment of surprise, the three of them determined the direction and turned into three streams of light, disappearing on the spot. Along the way, Chen Hao sensed the aura of many cultivators, all of whom were young experts in the primordial soul realm. Obviously, these cultivators had just been teleported to this area, just like the three of them. The cultivators who came in through the teleportation array in the cities outside the central mainland were usually teleported to a safe area within a 10,000-mile radius of the city. There was basically no danger in this area. There were also rarely any demonic beasts, unless there was a beast tide. However, the teleportation array would not be activated during the beast tide. Otherwise, how could the disciples who were teleported here survive? An hour later, a huge city that stretched as far as the eye could see appeared in front of the three of them. The city walls alone were 10,000 feet high. Even from 1,000 miles away, they could sense a vigorous, vast, and majestic aura. Under the hazy sky, it emitted rays of light. In front of a city gate that was 1,000 feet long and 3,000 feet high, there were 100 primordial soul realm experts standing on both sides. They were dressed in martial attire and had a stern aura as they guarded the city gate. 2 elders in the creation realm stood guard. When Chen Hao and the other 2 arrived at the entrance of the city gate, many young cultivators lined up in a 100-man queue, waiting to be checked by the 2 elders in the creation realm before entering the city in an orderly manner. Some cultivators who flashed their identity tokens were allowed to enter without being checked. However, the young cultivators who were obviously entering the eastern mainland for the first time had to undergo a detailed check by the 2 elders in the creation realm before they could enter. The appearance of Chen Hao and the beautiful sisters naturally attracted the attention of many cultivators. Firstly, the aura of the 2 women was in the early stage primordial soul realm. Chen Hao had barely reached the peak of the early stage primordial soul realm. Being able to pass through the teleportation array at such a realm meant that there was something extraordinary about them. Secondly, the aura of the 3 of them was very young. Thirdly, the 2 beautiful sisters had the same peerlessly beautiful appearance, and Chen Hao's peerlessly handsome appearance. Both of them were existences that attracted everyone's attention. The central mainland is really a gathering place for geniuses. We've just arrived and we've already seen such top geniuses. Most of the young cultivators thought to themselves. Chen Hao and the other 2 were no exception. While others were sizing them up, they were sizing up others as well. Chen Hao could sense that at least 1/3 of the cultivators in the group had extremely powerful auras. Any one of them would be a peerless genius capable of stirring up a storm in the eastern continent. Old Wang, look at that little fellow. When Chen Hao and the other 2 stood in the queue and waited for the inspection, 2 people at the entrance brought out several strange enchanted treasures to perform various tests on the cultivators. One of them, an old man in Blessed Realm, sent a voice transmission to the other. Not bad, not bad. It had been a long time since he had seen such an outstanding young man. This young fellow's life aura indicates that he's only about 20 years old. It's already quite impressive for him to reach the peak of the early stage essence soul realm. That's right. The key is that his qi and blood are extremely dense. It's obvious that he has cultivated an extremely powerful body refining technique. His physical body must be very strong. It was just that he did not know how powerful Zhang Xian was. Nevertheless, just based on these 2 points, it was already hard to come by. Those twin girls are not bad either. After nearly half an hour, it was finally Chen Hao's turn. Seniors, my name is Chen Hao. I'm from the Eastern Continent's Immortal Dao District. I'm 20 years old. My realm is at the peak of the early stage essence soul realm. This is the identification of the Eastern Continent's Immortal Dao 10 sects, said Chen Hao as he cupped his fists when he saw the inspection process in front of him. Eastern Continent's Immortal Dao District? Everyone, including the 2 old men, was deeply surprised when they heard Chen Hao's words. The Eastern Continent was at the bottom of the cultivation world. If Chen Hao was ordinary, no one would be surprised. However, although Chen Hao's realm was slightly lower, he was definitely not ordinary. Everyone thought that Chen Hao was from a powerful city outside the protective barrier. They did not expect him to be from the Eastern Continent. That's right, said Chen Hao respectfully when he saw everyone's gaze. He was neither servile nor overbearing, and he was not ashamed of the Eastern Continent at all. Not bad, not bad. I didn't expect the Eastern Continent to produce a talent like you. Let's begin the inspection. As the old man activated the special detection Dharma treasure, Chen Hao could clearly feel his soul, body, and bloodline fluctuating. It was as if several streams of energy were swimming in his body, inspecting him clearly. Before coming here, Chen Hao already knew that this inspection was not to check their strength. It was to check if they were the transmogrification of a high-level alien race. After a while, the 3 of them completed the inspection and stepped into the majestic city together. Whoosh, Before the three of them could size up the city, a group of people swarmed over. Hello, three of you. I'm a member of the Heaven and Earth Guardian Group. The Heaven and Earth Guardian Group is one of the top guardian groups in the Boundless Continent. Welcome, this is our information. I'm the Yi family's envoy. I'm from the Beyond Guardian Group. In an instant, Chen Hao and the beautiful sisters became the target of countless promoters. Some of the cultivators who had just entered or those who came later were left out. It couldn't be helped. Although Chen Hao and the other two's realms were not high, these smart people could see that they had potential. If they could rope them in, they would naturally be rewarded handsomely. Under the bombardment of the crowd, Chen Hao and the other two received jade scrolls that stored information about the various guardian groups and factions. Only then did they walk out of the crowd. Brother Hao, sister, our cultivation is the lowest, but we are the most popular. Which one should we join? We're not joining any of them, Chen Hao said. We just need to go to an alliance's testing center and obtain the guardian status. We'll register another guardian group. We don't lack money. Our main goal is to cultivate. We don't need to work for any organization. Oh, we'll do it ourselves? It depends on the situation. If there's a good mission, we can join another guardian group to have fun. There's no restriction anyway. The guardian status certification was something that all cultivators in the Middle Mainland had to go through. The cultivators who first stepped into the Middle Mainland could only become a level 1 guardian, regardless of their cultivation. Only by completing enough mission points and meeting certain conditions could they raise their guardian rank. Guardians could join forces and register as a guardian group. A guardian group also had a strict ranking assessment. In fact, a guardian group was equivalent to a mercenary group, and a guardian group was a mercenary group. It was just a change of name. Although Chen Hao didn't receive any specific information before coming here, he had a pretty good guess about it. The three of them read the information in the jade scrolls as they walked. In the huge city, cultivators were all in a hurry. There were not many people on the streets. Moreover, most of the palaces belonged to a certain guardian group, sect, or family. Taverns of various sizes would appear at intervals. Many cultivators gathered there. Is this the alliance? After 2 hours, the three of them crossed a distance of nearly 10,000 miles and finally arrived in front of a huge and magnificent palace in the center of the city. This palace was 3,000 feet tall and nearly 100 miles in diameter. It was a circular palace that spanned across the center of the city. One could not see its full appearance at a glance. It was only at this time that cultivators gathered from all around the city became denser. Haha, fourth brother, it's all thanks to you this time that we completed the last level 3 mission. Our guardian group can finally be promoted to a level 3 guardian group. Yes, fourth brother. You're worthy of being the leader of the younger generation in Emerald Smoke City. We've been here for so many years and still haven't been able to leave. Fourth brother? Why are you attracted to him? A middle-aged man lowered his voice and said, We can't provoke these peerless geniuses. No, that young man looks very familiar. He looks very similar to someone I know. If he's still alive, he might be comparable to this young man. You mean Chen Hao from the Eastern Continent? Yes. Let's go. I didn't expect there to be someone who looks so similar. Haha. The young man called fourth brother said. This young man was none other than Lin Hao, the young master of the Emerald Smoke Chamber of Commerce in Emerald Smoke City. The few cultivators who were obviously much older with him were all cultivators from Emerald Smoke City. After Chen Hao led the 2 women into the palace, they arrived at the Guardian certification area under the guidance of the beautiful female attendant. When they arrived at an empty window, Chen Hao cupped his fists and said to the old man at the window, Hello, senior. We'd like to take the Guardian certification assessment. Oh. The old man lazily seemed to be immersed in meditation. When he heard Chen Hao's words, he opened his eyes and looked over with a hint of surprise. Young man, not bad. It's been a long time since I've seen such a young primordial spirit realm cultivator. However, you're only at the early stage of the primordial spirit realm, so you'd better go home and cultivate. It's not that easy to be certified as a guardian. If you fail, you can only take the assessment half a year later to avoid wasting another half a year. Senior, we've been teleported here. Please help us with the certification, Chen Hao said with a smile. Obviously, the old man's kind reminder had mistaken them for native youths from Songyuan City. Ah, you've been teleported here? Not bad, not bad. Young man, you have a bright future ahead of you. Each person has to pay 1,000 upper-grade primordial crystal stones. Enter your information into the Jade Scroll. Although your abilities should have met the requirements, you still have to pass the assessment. The old man was even more surprised when he heard Chen Hao's words. Thank you, Senior, Chen Hao and the other two said. After taking out 3,000 upper-grade primordial crystal stones and handing them to the old man, the three of them entered their information into the Jade Scroll. After the assessment is completed, bring your results to me to receive the Guardian certification token. Go in. The old man waved his hand and released a wave of energy, opening the door and allowing Chen Hao and the other two to enter the assessment hall. The hall was only 1,000 feet in radius. Inside, there were more than 100 cultivators divided into 10 rows, waiting to be tested. After Chen Hao and the other two entered, they all looked at them. Most of the people revealed a look of amazement. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to vote for it on Qidian. Come. Chapter 386. Chen Hao brought the two girls to the team with the least number of people, and stood at the back. The young cultivator standing in front of Chen Hao turned back to look at Chen Hao and transmitted his voice. Brother, did you teleport here from another area? His gaze swept across the two girls, and he nodded slightly without any evil intentions. This cultivator's aura was obviously at the beginning stage of the Essence Soul realm. He had a head of golden curly hair and a tall and muscular body. He was half a head taller than Chen Hao. His face was rough and his most unique feature was his thick and long eyebrows. They were actually connected into a line, and were also golden in color. Yes. Chen Hao nodded slightly and transmitted his voice. I'm the first king, a cultivator from the Flaming Lion tribe in Songyuan City. Nice to meet you. Chen Hao. These two are my junior sisters, Chen Hao said, and did not reject them. This young cultivator's aura was so strong that Chen Hao faintly felt that it would be a little tricky. However, there was no hostility. Brother Chen's aura is very strong. I wonder if there are any factions that you like to join? If not, we can join forces to register a guardian team. I wonder if Brother Chen is interested? We will compete based on strength and the strongest will be the leader. I have already invited a few cultivators from the Immortal Dao, Demon Dao, and Fiend Dao. They have all just passed the guardian test. With the three of you, we can form a team of 10 people and register a guardian team, the first king said. Oh, Brother First King, why are you taking the test so late? Chen Hao asked in surprise. This test is not difficult for people like us. I have been waiting outside for a month. It is not easy to choose suitable teammates. The other 6 people are the same age as us. They are all at the beginning stage or peak stage of the Essence Soul realm. If we train together, it will be good for everyone's improvement. Brother Chen, are you interested? Sure. After we are done with the test, we will look at the other teammates before I decide. How about that? Ha, good. I guarantee you will be satisfied. I still have a good eye. The first king grinned and cupped his fists at Chen Hao before turning his head confidently. Subsequently, Chen Hao told the two women about his conversation with the first king. Chen Hao already had plans to establish his own guardian group. Firstly, he knew very well that he wasn't the kind of person who was willing to be subordinate to others. Although joining other powerful guardian groups could allow his guardian level to rapidly increase, it would lack self-tempering. Especially towards the end, it would be more and more unworthy of the name. Secondly, Chen Hao wanted teammates who had truly gone through hardships with him. Only such a team would be meaningful. This demonic youth, the first king, intuitively felt that he would be a good teammate. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Moments later, all 10 doors opened at the same time. Most of the hundreds of cultivators walked out of the door with a hint of excitement. There were also a few who were dejected. It was obvious that they had failed the test. They cursed and left the hall with their tails between their legs. Next batch. After all the cultivators came out, a dignified voice came from the door. Chen Hao and the others quickly passed through the door and entered a spacious hall. To Chen Hao's slight surprise, he was clearly within the palace, yet a chasm that was like a natural chasm had appeared before him. It was an entire 3 kilometers wide, and when he looked down, it was pitch black and filled with a terrifying and dangerous aura. In front of them was a tunnel that was 100 meters long. It was raised at a 30-degree angle like a cannon barrel. This chasm is 10,800 feet wide. It is also the first test. There is a 100-fold gravity field condensed on the chasm, and it will seal your ability to use your vital chi again. Unless you are a cultivator in the creation realm, you will definitely not be able to fly. You can only rely on your speed to rush through the tunnel in one go. Once you step out of the tunnel, all your strength will be restricted. If you are too slow, you will not be able to jump to the other side and will be eliminated. So you must increase your speed to the peak in the tunnel. An old man in charge of the test said in a low voice, "From now on, the first in the first row to the first in the second row will take turns. Begin." "It's no big deal," the cultivator in the first row said confidently. He took a step forward and rushed into the cannon barrel that was 100 meters long. With a loud bang, he shot out like a cannonball. If he did not have the 100-fold gravity field, he would definitely be able to rush up hundreds of thousands of feet and fly dozens of miles away. But once he rushed out of the cannon barrel, the 100-fold gravity field caused his speed to decrease drastically. He twisted at an angle that was completely beyond everyone's imagination. Fortunately, he was fast enough. When he reached the edge of the tunnel, his body had already landed on the platform on the other side, but his hands were just in time to grab the railing at the edge. It caused quite a number of cultivators to break out in cold sweat. It was especially so for the cultivators who did not have an advantage in terms of speed. They became even more nervous. In the subsequent tests, a number of cultivators performed amazingly. With a light lift, they flew dozens of meters above the platform and landed steadily on the platform. This caused quite a number of cultivators to applaud. But there were also 6 cultivators who failed. They screamed as they fell into the deep valley and were eliminated. "Brother Chin, I'll wait for you on the other side." Finally, when it was time to discuss the young first king of the Fey race, the first king confidently said to Chen Hao, "Boom." With a loud rumble, his massive body suddenly turned into a stream of light. Although he was only at the early stage of the primordial spirit realm, the speed he displayed was much faster than most of the cultivators at the mid-stage of the primordial spirit realm. He was almost 100 meters above the platform as he landed steadily on the platform. Everyone, including the old man in charge of the test, nodded approvingly. He said, "Not bad. This young demon is obviously from the Flaming Lion clan. He's not good at speed, but he's only at the early stage of the primordial spirit realm. To be able to achieve such speed is really rare. He's a good seedling." Next. After that, the 9 cultivators performed average. Finally, it was Chen Hao's turn. "Relax. If you can withstand the test of the traditional passageway, there's basically no problem with this test. It's just a test of attack power, reaction speed, and attack speed." When Chen Hao saw the sisters' nervous expressions, he reminded them telepathically, "Throw away all distracting thoughts and adjust yourself to your best condition. With your abilities, you'll definitely pass." After Chen Hao finished speaking, he rushed into the cannon barrel in a flash. The young demon king, who was already standing on the other side, had a hint of anticipation and excitement. Of course, the hot-bloodedness of youth made him naturally view this test as a contest between him and Chen Hao. Chen Hao naturally understood this, but he still did not use his full strength. His powerful soul and the precise calculation ability that came from his other self had already calculated the precise gravitational field value from the speed and downward acceleration of the cultivators in front of him. Then, according to the elevation of the 100-meter cannon barrel, Chen Hao knew very well how much he could increase his speed to be able to suppress the young demon king, and it would not be too shocking. This was just a test. No matter how good one's results were, they would still be qualified as a Class 1 guardian. There was no need to expose too much in front of everyone. Boom. Shik. At the moment Chen Hao rushed out, The 100 or so cultivators watching knew that Chen Hao's results would definitely be very high. But with the first king in front of them, they were not too surprised. However, the old man who presided over the test revealed a hint of surprise. Others might not have sensed it, but the old man was a blessed realm elite. The change in Chen Hao's speed in the short 100 meters in the cannon barrel was clearly under his control. Unlike the others, Chen Hao's speed did not increase in a straight line. Instead, it went through a few small, undetectable twists and turns. What did this mean? It meant that Chen Hao was not charging forward at full speed, but was adjusting his speed at the instant he rushed out. Even Chen Hao did not expect that the old man would notice his subtle movements. Amazing. He's almost 150 feet now. 105 meters. He's more than 5 meters taller than me. As expected, he's not simple. However, speed isn't my forte. When the first king saw Chen Hao cross the height of the platform, he was slightly surprised. But he was not discouraged. Instead, it stirred up his competitive spirit. Soon it was Lung Ningle's turn. However, when the old man asked Lung Ningle to go up, the little girl hesitated for a moment before she said to the old man, "Senior, can we sisters go together?" "Sure. As long as you're not afraid of affecting each other, it doesn't matter. You two should have telepathy, right? You two are pretty good twins. You can start now." "Thank you, Senior," Lung Ningle said respectfully. Lung Ningle respectfully said. The two sisters looked at each other and suddenly turned into two streaks of light that shot into the cannon. If they were ordinary people, their speed would definitely be affected if they went together, but the sisters had telepathy, and they were like one person. Not only would their speed not be affected, but their speed would also be increased to a higher level when they worked together. Lung Ningle made such a request because the little girl was not very confident. However, the old man agreed to it because they were not the first people to make such a request. In the world of cultivation, twins who had telepathy were basically inseparable. They were like one person. Most of the time, even in a duel, they would attack at the same time, and usually no one would object to them winning with numbers. When the sisters walked out of the cannon barrel hand in hand, everyone, including Chen Hao, widened their eyes in shock. So fast. They're that powerful? Chen Hao was a little speechless. After the sisters entered the primordial soul stage, Chen Hao was not sure how powerful they were when they worked together. However, at this moment, just the speed they displayed made Chen Hao certain that it was definitely comparable to his limit. 200 meters. Amazing, really amazing. This speed is almost twice as fast as ours. The first king said in shock. Brother Chen, how should I address them? Lung Ninghuan, Lung Ningle. Chen Hao replied with a faint smile. He looked at the sisters with a hint of excitement on their faces as they landed beside him. You two little girls, don't work together in the next test. Keep a low profile. Seeing that the two of them couldn't help but lean on him like little birds, Chen Hao's father transmitted his voice. Oh, God, grandfather, we're afraid we won't be able to pass. The sisters replied at the same time. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Qidian. Come to vote. Chapter 387. The second test is the attack power test. You'll pass if you light up 100 purple crystals. You'll be eliminated if you don't. Everyone has 2 chances. Let's begin. Under the old man's lead, everyone entered the second level. The space was very small, only 1,000 feet in radius. A testing pagoda monument stood at the core. On the monument, 200 purple crystals were evenly distributed from the lowest to the highest. An ordinary mid-stage essence soul realm cultivator can light up 100 crystals. A late-stage essence soul realm cultivator can light up 150 crystals, and a half-step to creation realm cultivator can light up 200 crystals. Brother Chen, among our other 6 teammates, the least one has lit up 120 crystals. In terms of attack power, he's close to an ordinary mid-stage essence soul realm cultivator. The highest one has lit up 143 crystals, close to a late-stage essence soul realm cultivator. The first king transmitted his voice as the 100-odd disciples began the test. There was a confident smile on his rough and imposing face. That's very good. Did you meet the other 6 here, or did you know them from the beginning? I only knew 2 of them at first. They're cultivators from Songyuan City like me. One of them is from the Immortal Dao, called Baililian City, and the other is from the Fiend Dao, called Jingtiangang. Brother First King, forgive me for being blunt, but with your talent and cultivation, you must be disciples of the big families or sects in Songyuan City, right? Why did you form a separate guardian group? The First King smiled and said, the 3 of us are indeed disciples of the top families in Songyuan City. We're also the direct descendants of our families, and we're the most talented disciples. Therefore we're free. Our mission is to reach the peak of the martial Dao. Our families won't restrict us in any way, and that's what we want. Chen Hao was slightly taken aback when he heard the First King's words, but he immediately nodded in relief. Indeed, a true expert's achievements would be limited if they were bound to the trifling matters of their families. The First King then introduced the other 4 to Chen Hao. The other 4 were 2 pairs of Dao companions. One of them was from the more powerful East Sea Archipelago, while the other was from the northern continent. Everyone felt that the attack power test was much easier than the speed test. When it was the First King's turn, not a single one was eliminated. Most of them were concentrated between 100 and 110 stones. Only a few disciples had a score above 130 stones, and the highest was 138 stones. As a member of the Flaming Lion clan, the First King had a natural advantage in terms of strength. With a single punch, he lit up 158 of them. The First King was very satisfied with this result. He was only at the early stage Essence Soul Realm, but his offensive strength had already exceeded the late stage Essence Soul Realm. With such results, he was confident that it would not be difficult for him to beat Chen Hao. Of course, if he knew that Chen Hao had easily defeated a genius expert of the late primordial spirit realm, he probably would not think so. Moreover, when Chen Hao defeated Mo Yuxian, his cultivation level had not yet reached the peak of the early stage primordial spirit realm. Not bad, young man. You must be the First King of the Shi family, right? Exactly. Senior, you flatter me. First King cupped his fists and said when he heard the praise from the elder presiding over the test. Although he spoke modestly, the pride of a young man could not be concealed at all. However, when Chen Hao casually struck with his palm, the First King's eyes widened. 160 stones. A moment later, the beautiful sisters' results were announced one after another. They were exactly the same, 113 stones. The third test is a test of reaction speed and movement technique. Follow me. The elder led Chen Hao and the others to the third level. A narrow passageway that was thousands of feet long, and only 15 feet wide appeared before everyone's eyes. There was no mysterious aura in the passage. The 4 walls looked like an ordinary passage made of huge stones. Even with Chen Hao's powerful soul perception, he could not detect any abnormalities. In this passage, you will be attacked 1,000 times without any warning or pattern. You will only be able to sense a trace of energy fluctuation when the attack is launched. The attack is not very powerful, and it will not injure you. However, every time you are hit by an attack, a point will be deducted. If you are above 600 points, you will pass. If you are below 600 points, you will be eliminated. You do not need to try to sense it. Even Blessed Realm elites will not be able to sense any aura from the traps in the passage. What you need to do is to react as quickly as possible when the attack appears. Remember, you can only dodge, not block. If you block it, you will hit. Time limit. You must pass through the passage within 1 minute. Otherwise, you will fail. Begin. The old man said in a low voice. When the first cultivator heard the old man's words, he sucked in a deep breath and stepped into the passage. Hiss! As the cultivator moved forward quickly, crimson-red rays of light that looked like lasers appeared out of thin air in a bizarre manner. They shot out without any warning, and the angles were incredibly tricky. They were also incredibly fast. In the beginning, there were dozens of them, and the cultivator avoided them all, but as he went deeper, clear banging sounds came from the cultivator's body. Every time a sound rang out, it meant that the cultivator was hit. The further he went, the higher the frequency of the sound. In less than a minute, when the cultivator reached the end of the passage, He was already covered in cold sweat, and his face was pale. It was not because he had used up a lot of energy, but because he was extremely nervous, and he had used up too much of his spirit. He panted heavily and stared at the old man who had arrived at his end at some unknown point of time. You hit 403 times. Try harder next time, the old man said in a regretful tone while shaking his head. Senior, can you give me another chance? I was too nervous, and I didn't use my full strength. I can do it. Go down. It's not that easy to become a guardian. You are indeed nervous, but nervousness is also a problem of your temperament. There's no need to say anything else. The old man waved his hand and released a wave of energy, sending the first cultivator, who took the test, to the group of people who were eliminated. All of you listen up. The number of people who are eliminated in this test is the highest in every batch. There are often cultivators who find all kinds of excuses, saying that they are nervous, that they are tall, or that they are at a disadvantage. These are all excuses. This test is very fair. As long as your body doesn't fill up the entire passage, it's fair. Although the time and distance of each attack is irregular, it is the same, and the reaction time is the same. Alright, let's continue. The old man stood at the other end of the passage and said in a dignified manner. After that, among the nearly 100 people, most of them were between 600 and 700 points, and 7 people were eliminated again. Moreover, most of the people who were eliminated were older people. Judging from their depressed expressions, it seemed that this was not the first time they had taken this test. Moreover, it was obvious that they had all failed in this segment. I can't lose again this time. When it was finally First King's turn, this tall guy thought to himself. Although this was not his strong point, he had more or less underestimated his opponent in the first 2 segments. Without any pressure, although he had tried his best, it was definitely not his limit. His goal was to be the regiment commander. Although the test could not reflect his true combat power, how embarrassing would it be if he was suppressed by Chen Hao in every aspect? First King took a deep breath and cut off all distracting thoughts. He adjusted his state of mind to a state of emptiness, and his essence, qi, and spirit surged to an unprecedented level. Qi. His tall and mighty body immediately turned into a stream of light, and charged into the long and narrow passage. Hiss, as the crimson laser-like attacks appeared, the First King's huge body nimbly flashed. Relying on his precise senses, he did not waste the slightest bit of time and energy. Every red light narrowly brushed past him. He moved forward 6,000 feet, and did not cause any explosions. So powerful. Too powerful. His reaction speed and body movement have reached such a level. I'm afraid that even a peak late-stage primordial soul realm can't do it. Is he going to win completely? Impossible. No one in the primordial soul realm can win completely. Only those half-step to manifestation realm experts who came from other regions and took the test later can win completely. It's hard to say. Although reaction speed will increase as one's cultivation level increases, it is more of an innate advantage. Pa. At 8,000 feet, a crisp pa sounded in everyone's ears, destroying any possibility of a complete victory. Roar. First King let out a beast-like roar. His golden curly hair immediately stood on end as he charged forward again. Powerful. The legendary Golden Lion King? This fellow is a rare genius who gets stronger under pressure. At this moment, even Chen Hao was a little surprised by First King's performance. Of course, it was just a little surprise. Pa. After 2 more crisp explosions, the First King rushed out of the tunnel and appeared in front of the old man who had a look of surprise on his face. 997. He had only been hit 3 times. This was definitely beyond everyone's imagination. It seems that this fellow won't even give me a chance to keep a low profile. Chen Hao's lips curled into a bitter smile. He thought to himself, but fortunately, it's body movement and reaction speed. Although body movement and reaction speed were also a great measure of combat power, they were not very important compared to absolute power. This was what most people thought. If it was a test of attack power, Chen Hao would rather lose to First King to keep a low profile. How good was it to pretend to be weak? If he really let everyone know that he was strong, How would he have the chance to make a fortune? As expected of the Sure family's #1 genius. Good job. The elder could not help but exclaim. This is the best result in the past 10 years among all the testers in Songyuan City, who are below the middle stage of the primordial soul realm. After a few people, it was finally Chen Hao's turn. Chen Hao's performance in the previous 2 tests had been astonishing. At this moment, everyone present, including the elder, was undoubtedly looking forward to Chen Hao's test. Chen Hao took a deep breath. His handsome face was still as calm as ever, and no one could tell how deep he was. He did not seem nervous at all. The others did not know about the secret competition between Chen Hao and First King, but First King was very clear about it. This time, it was all because of the explosive power of his little universe. He originally had the confidence to win, but for some reason when he saw Chen Hao's expression, he vaguely felt a little uneasy. Hiss. Chen Hao took a step forward and rushed into the long and narrow tunnel. Chapter 388. Chen Hao's powerful soul perception spread out. He knew that if he wanted to surpass the First King, he had to be extremely focused. However, the moment he stepped into the tunnel, he did not use the free and unfettered wave treading steps. Although the free and unfettered wave treading steps was ever-changing, the key was the word human. The essence of it was to confuse the opponent, to lead the opponent by the nose and make the opponent make the wrong judgment. If the opponent closed their eyes and gave up their senses, it would be like a blind cat catching a dead mouse, and it would be easier to hit the target by mistake. As for the mechanisms and restrictions, they were preset with hundreds of different and irregular procedures. They would not be confused by the free and unfettered wave treading steps. Therefore, Chen Hao could only rely on his reaction speed to make the most appropriate dodging in the shortest time possible. Hiss hiss hiss. Under the laser-like scarlet attacks, Chen Hao's speed was astonishing, and he was not any slower than the First King. It looked extremely thrilling, but he passed through it by a hair's breadth. 400 feet, no sound. 500 feet, 600 feet, no sound. 700 feet, still no sound. Seeing this, the First King was even more nervous than when he was taking the test. His huge fists were tightly clenched, and his eyes were wide open. His thick golden eyebrows were like 2 raised dog tails. Seeing that Chen Hao was about to hit him, his breathing became hurried. 800 feet. Under everyone's shocked gaze, there was still no sound. The First King's rough and towering face was sweating. What did this mean? It meant that the result before 800 feet had already surpassed him. Although the timing and attack point of each person was different, it was always easier at the beginning and harder at the end. The First King could only hope that Chen Hao would make a mistake in the next 200 feet. In the blink of an eye, Chen Hao had finally reached the final juncture. Hiss hiss hiss. Dozens of turbulent flows suddenly attacked. At this moment, everyone knew that Chen Hao had reached the most crucial moment. However, no one believed that Chen Hao could completely avoid this wave of attacks. No one, including the old man in charge of the test, thought so. After all, the density of the last round of attacks, and the time interval between them made it difficult for even an elite in the initial stage of Blessed Realm to avoid all of them. They could not afford to make even the slightest mistake. Not only did they have to accurately judge the sequence of the seemingly chaotic attacks, they also had to ensure that they did not make even the slightest mistake, or else they would definitely be hit. However, what shocked everyone was that Chen Hao's body twisted strangely at this moment, like a water snake, flashing a few times at a high frequency. Then, Chen Hao appeared in front of everyone. From beginning to end, not a single sound was emitted. A complete victory. Everyone, including the old man, was dumbfounded. After a few seconds of silence, waves of exclamations and applause broke out. "Brother Chen, I'm impressed." First King cupped his fists and said with a burning gaze. The old man could not help but exclaim, "Young man, I didn't expect you to perform so well. I dare not comment on your speed and attack power, but you've broken the record of Songyuan City in this test. In Songyuan City, no one below the middle stage of Primordial Soul Realm has been able to achieve a complete victory. You're the first. Speed and reaction are my strengths. I was just lucky." Chen Hao wiped the sweat off his forehead and said with a smile, "This fellow is not simple. In our batch, his speed is second only to the two beauties from the demonic path who came with him. His attack power is the best, and his reaction speed and movement are even more terrifying. His aura is still very young. I really can't compare to him. He's definitely a true genius in the central mainland. I just don't know how strong he really is. His real combat power is definitely not weak. Anyway, it's not something we can compare to. Damn it, this is my third test and I finally passed. There's no pressure in the last test. As the crowd discussed in low voices, the test continued. The beautiful sisters from the Lung family performed equally well this time. Their reaction speed and movement speed were very good. Moreover, what surprised the crowd even more was that their results were exactly the same. They were both hit a total of 184 times. Moreover, the time and location of the hits were almost the same. It was just that the angle of the attack was different, and the location of the hit was different. The last test was the endurance test of the physical body and soul. It was also the most important test. However, to Chun Hao, the beautiful sisters, and the other disciples who came through the teleportation channel, it was a piece of cake. They passed the test easily. Not bad, not bad. When Chun Hao brought the two ladies to the old man who had signed up for the test, the old man looked at Chun Hao in surprise and said. Then, he handed the token that symbolized a Class 1 guardian to the three of them. This is the description of the token. If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask other cultivators. Congratulations on becoming the guardians of the boundless land. The old man said as he handed 3 jade slips to the three of them. Thank you, senior. Chun Hao and the two ladies said at the same time. As soon as the three of them stepped out of the test hall, a group of young people gathered around them. Just by looking at these people's expressions, the three of them knew that they were definitely newcomers who wanted to form a guardian team. That was indeed the case. Even though Chun Hao and the other two had coldly rejected them, the crowd still persevered and followed them, bragging about how awesome they were, how good they were, and how loyal they were. There were even quite a few people who had come purely for the sisters. There was no doubt that beauties of this level would add to any guardian team. They were definitely living signboards. Even if they did not come out to recruit people, they would still attract many young disciples to join. In this day and age, so what if they had a Dao companion? They could at least be eye candy, right? Occasionally, there were many cases of people trying to poach. Even if they failed, there was still the possibility of cheating, right? As the saying went, a wife was not as good as a concubine, and a concubine was not as good as a thief. Move aside. A high-pitched voice suddenly sounded, causing everyone's eardrums to buzz. The first king, who was a head taller than most people, exuded a beast-like aura. With a wave of his hand, the crowd separated and he walked toward Chun Hao and the beautiful sisters. The first king. Brother First King, is he one of your people? It wasn't easy for us to take a fancy to him. This time, please be magnanimous and let him go. There are already several of them. Many of the young disciples who surrounded him obviously knew the first king. Let him go, my ass. This brother Chun might be my first king's boss. You think you're worthy of him joining your team? Brother First King, did I hear wrongly? Hearing the first king's words, many Songyuan city natives revealed surprised expressions. Who was the first king? He was the leader of the younger generation in Songyuan city. He was known as the three great monsters along with the Bailey family's Bailey Lianqing and Jing family's Jing Tiangang. Each of them had their own characteristics and strengths. No one was willing to submit to another, but they had a good personal relationship and appreciated each other. In terms of overall strength, the first king still had a slight advantage. He was only slightly inferior to Qian Wuliang, the number 1 person of the younger generation in Songyuan City's number 1 sect, Songshan sect. However, the first king actually said that the young man in front of him might be his boss. What kind of concept was this? Move aside. Brother Chun, Miss Lung, they're all in the cultivation hall. We'll go find them and meet them. If Brother Chun doesn't have any objections, we'll register as a guardian team. Okay. Chun Hao said. Chun Hao had already obtained some information from the jade slip that the old man had given him. The cultivation hall was a place specially built by the Alliance for Guardians to cultivate. It was divided into various levels according to the guardian's level. Level 1 guardians could only enter the Level 1 cultivation hall. Moreover, they had to spend mission points or pay a fee to enter. However, the information did not mention the specific situation. When the 4 of them arrived at the cultivation hall, they each showed their Level 1 guardian token. No points. You just passed the test, right? These numbers are all from today. If you want to enter now, each person has to pay 10,000 high-grade primal crystal stones. The time limit is 1 day. For every additional day, you have to pay 10,000 high-grade primal crystal stones. Here are 40,000. The first king took out a storage ring and handed it to the old man guarding the door. We'll stay for a day first. If you want to extend it, I'll come out and pay the fee. The old man was slightly stunned. Clearly, he was surprised by the first king's extravagance. However, after sizing up the 4 of them, he concluded that they were the top geniuses of some large family, and did not say anything else. They had money and were willing to waste it. What did it have to do with you? Why is it so expensive? After the 4 of them walked through the door, Chunhao could not help but ask. It's normal. If you're not a guardian, no matter how much primal crystal stones you have, you won't be allowed to enter. This is only a Level 1 cultivation hall. For every Level 1 cultivation hall, the amount of primal crystal stones used is double that of the previous Level 1. Under normal circumstances, you have to use mission points to enter. Completing a Level 1 mission will give you 1 point. 1 point will allow you to cultivate here for a day. As a native of Songyuan City, although the first king had never entered the cultivation hall, he was very familiar with these details. They've been doing missions during this period of time to earn some points and cultivate here. I lost a bet with Bailey Lianqing and Jing Tiangang. Otherwise, they would have been looking for newcomers. Fortunately, I met the 3 of you today. Otherwise, even if I passed the test, I wouldn't have the time to come here. I've wanted to come here for a long time. The facilities of the cultivation hall are something that even the top clans and sects are unable to condense. It's definitely the best place to cultivate. It's just that using primal crystal stones is a bit too expensive, the first king said. Bang bang bang. Ding ding ding. After the 4 of them passed through a milky white light door, they immediately heard the sound of an intense battle. A huge martial arts practice hall appeared in front of them. In the middle of a circular arena, there were 2 cultivators fighting. In the martial arts practice hall, there were a few thousand people sitting in front of it and watching. Let's wait here. I'll inform them, the first king said as he crushed 4 communication talismans. 2 of them were to inform Bailey Lianqing and Jing Tiangang. The other 2 talismans were for the male cultivators of the 2 Dao companions. This cultivation hall was incomparably huge. The martial arts practice hall was just a place for guardians to compete. It belonged to the nature of entertainment and gambling. It was just like the free exchange and challenge area in Heavenly Mist City. There were also all kinds of sealed cultivation areas. As for the other 6 people, it was impossible to find them. Author's note. I can't repay my debt for these 2 days. I can only maintain 2 updates. I'm really ashamed. Also, all the brothers and sisters who have subscribed to Proud Heaven now have a free evaluation vote for Proud Heaven. If you haven't voted yet, please help me. Remember to give me 10 points. Many thanks. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Qidian. Chapter 389. Buzz. A moment later, the first king received a message from Bailey Lianqing. He looked at Chen Hao and said, Brother Chen, the 6 of them have just arrived at the gravity field cultivation area. They want us to meet there. Since we are already here, let's go there and cultivate while chatting. The gravity field cultivation area is an excellent place to train speed, strength, and temper the body. All right. I also want to experience it. Let's go, Chen Hao said. After passing through the martial arts practice area, the 4 of them entered a passageway that was 100 feet wide. After walking for a short distance, a door would appear on both sides of the wall. Beside the door was the name of the cultivation area. Heavenly Fire Body Tempering Area, Mystic Ice Body Tempering Area, Puppet Combat Area, reaction training area, attack power training area, movement technique training area, pressure tolerance training area, extraterrestrial monster level simulation training area, attribute energy attack area, sword intent training area, saber intent training area, artifact refining area, alchemy area, heaven's punishment area. Huff, looking at the names, even the first king, who already knew the situation inside, had a burning gaze. Not to mention Chun Hao and the beautiful sisters who knew nothing about the cultivation dojo. Just by looking at the names, the four of them had the urge to go in and give it a try. Along the way, they met many cultivators who came out from various cultivation rooms. They even met a few who knew the first king. When the four of them reached the deepest part of the passageway, they finally saw the door that was marked with the gravity field cultivation area. The first king took out his token and pressed it on the notch on the door. The door opened. The moment the first king entered, the door closed again. Anyone who cultivated could only enter through their own token and couldn't follow. Firstly, it was to count the number of cultivators who entered. Secondly, it was to determine the cultivator's location in the cultivation dojo. Interesting. The boundless world is obviously not a primitive society. Although it is completely different from the high-tech on Earth. It uses runic arrays and heaven and earth energy to evolve similar high-tech things. Many places are even more advanced than Earth. Chun Hao thought to himself when he saw the first king's name on the door. This token was actually an identification card. Swipe the card to open the door and transmit your information to the training hall's control center. Chun Hao could not help but have some thoughts. When he thought about the puppets he had encountered in the Seven Stars Palace in Sky City, Chun Hao felt a trace of desire. Chun Hao and the beautiful sisters also swiped their cards and walked in one after another. What came into view was a large hall with a radius of 3,000 feet. The layout of the hall was like a tavern. There were many tables and comfortable chairs. On the left side was a bar counter with beautiful waitresses. Huge shelves were filled with all kinds of drinks. On the right was a door marked medicinal bath. Beside the door was a service window. Obviously, this medicinal bath also had a separate fee. Chun Hao could not help but exclaim in admiration. The cultivation gym's facilities were truly perfect. To a certain extent, the gravitational field cultivation was specialized for the physical body. After overloading the cultivation, the damage to the physical body would definitely be huge. As for the medicinal bath, it was a bath filled with spirit herbs. There was no doubt that it was specialized to solve this problem. Chun Hao only glanced briefly the moment he entered before looking at the 4 men and 2 women who were waving at them. Or rather, the first king. The 6 people's gazes were basically focused on Chun Hao and the beautiful sisters. Whether it was Chun Hao or the beautiful sisters, a trace of surprise flashed in the depths of the 6 people's eyes. However, no one showed it. The expressions on their faces, especially the 4 men, were sufficiently arrogant. Ah, you didn't expect this, right? We're lucky today to have gathered 10 people in one go. Brother Chun, Miss Lung, come, let me introduce you. The first king warmly pulled Chun Hao's arm and walked to the round table where the 6 people were gathered. At the same time, he let Chun Hao and the beautiful sisters sit at the seat of honor first. The first king's seemingly unconscious action was nothing in the hearts of the 2 pairs of Dao companions. They originally thought that the first king was a boorish man who did not care about the etiquette of being in the upper and lower seats. However, Bailey Lianqing and Jing Tiangang, who knew the first king very well, were slightly surprised and could not help but look at each other. This is Chun Hao, Brother Chin, from the Eastern Continent's cultivation world. Eastern Continent's cultivation world? The first king's words made the 4 young people who pretended to be arrogant and wanted to show off their strength to Chun Hao frown at the same time. Ah, a hero's background is not important. Although the Eastern Continent is barren, Brother Chun. To tell you the truth, Brother Chen's test results completely suppress mine. Seeing everyone's expression, the first king's huge body sat down on the seat of 2 people and said, "It's just a test, it's nothing." Chun Hao said with a smile. At this moment, he was the same as the 4 youths and had a similar air of arrogance. Although his words were modest, the arrogance on his face was obvious. Moreover, it was the kind of arrogance that came from his bones. He gave people the feeling that he was born to be in a superior position. It was not something that could be faked. Oh, Lion, you were conservative during the test, right? Jing Tiangang, who was surrounded by demonic qi and had a somewhat evil charm of a demon youth, raised his sword-like eyebrows and said indifferently, "What are Brother Chen's results for these tests?" "Conservative my ass. I was in the same batch as Brother Chen and the other two. Although I did not display my full strength in the first two tests, I did not hold back either. In the third round, I exceeded my standard. However, I still lost," the first king said with a wave of his hand. Obviously, he did not care about face at all with Jing Tiangang. "Brother First King, let's get to know each other first. The test does not represent combat strength and comprehensive ability. So what if the results are good? When we were tested, we just casually passed the test. It's not accurate." Among the pair of Taoist companions, a scholarly youth with an elegant appearance said with a slight smile. His pair of eyes were bright and shining with the light of wisdom. However, this brother was wearing a different kind of coquettish red robe, which destroyed his elegance and looked a bit out of place. No hurry, no hurry. Since Lion has said so, you should at least tell me what Brother Chen's results are, right? I'm a bit curious, although I also casually tested, Bailey Lianqing said with a smile. With a round and chubby face, if he shaved his head and aged for 180 years, he would be a living Maitreya Buddha. After the first king swept his gaze over the crowd, he reported Chun Hao's results. Although the speed in the first round was not bad, it did not surprise them. However, the attack power in the second round surprised them. However, what really made them flabbergasted was that Chun Hao actually won in the third test. After seeing everyone's expression, the first king was satisfied and then introduced the Lung sisters. When it came to the sisters, the first king praised them again. In particular, the two of them had a tacit understanding of each other and showed a terrifying speed. Everyone could not help but sigh at their inferiority, and the gap between them was huge. Then the first king introduced the 6 people to Chun Hao and the other two, Bailey Lianqing and Jing Tiangang. Chun Hao already knew. The name of the young man in the red robe made Chun Hao's balls ache a little. Zhang Rongrong, his beautiful Taoist companion, was called Tan Hui. She looked gentle and virtuous, dignified and noble. Although she was not as charming as the sisters, she was also a rare beautiful woman. In the words of Earth, this kind of woman was the kind of woman who was suitable to be a wife. She was good at both the hall and the kitchen. She came from the immortal cultivation world of the East Sea Archipelago. Like Chun Hao, Zhang Rongrong was the leader of the younger generation in the East Sea Archipelago. He was also the champion of this year's intersect competition. Tan Rong was second only to Zhang Rongrong. Of course, these were all said by the first king. Obviously, they already knew each other's background. What made Chun Hao surprised was that the other pair of peerless geniuses from the northern continent were itinerant cultivators. They were not immortals, demons, or devils. The auras on their bodies were vague and fleeting. There were no obvious 3 auras. The man was slightly short, while the woman was tall and strong. However, they acted like a little bird. Chun Hao's names were even more shocking. He was called Gao Dazhuang, and the woman was called Bai Xiaomei. When the first king said the names of the 2 people, Chun Hao had a strong mental fortitude and resisted the urge to burst out laughing. However, the beautiful sisters sitting on his left and right could not help but burst out laughing. Cough cough. I'm sorry. Brother Gao and Sister Bai's names are too wonderful for words. Sorry. Lung Ninglu said a little awkwardly. Hee, it's okay. Anyone who hears my name for the first time would be unable to hold back their laughter. However, Brother Chun is able to hold it in. You really have strong willpower. Bai Xiaomei's voice was so sweet that it was sickening. Apart from Gao Dazhuang, all the other men felt their bodies go numb. Of course, the prerequisite was that they could not look at Bai Xiaomei's appearance. Cough cough. Now that the 10 of us are gathered, if no one has any objections, we will form a guardian group after we leave the cultivation pavilion. What do you think? I have no objections. The first king was the first to speak. I also have no objections. Bailey Lianqing smiled. I also have no objections, Jing Tiangang said. Soon after, the two pairs of Dao companions and Chen Hao's trio also expressed that they had no objections. It's good that no one has any objections. When I first came to find you, I said that whoever becomes the group leader will be determined by strength. In terms of strength, the most important thing is combat power. Secondly, it depends on this. The burly first king, who looked like a golden lion king, pointed at his own head and said, "Our family's Zhuang is extremely intelligent. Although Zhuang and I are not sisters, we are husband and wife. 3 years ago, our hearts were connected. If the two of us work together, you will definitely not be a match. Therefore, I feel that Zhuang is the most suitable group leader. What do you think?" The first king, pointing at his own head and talking about wisdom, had already stunned everyone. Bai Xiaomei's recommendation of Gao Dazhuang made everyone's balls hurt. On the other hand, Gao Dazhuang had a leisurely look as if what Bai Xiaomei said was the absolute truth. Chapter 390. The virtuous wife and mother smiled without saying anything, but Zhang Rongrong curled his lips and said, "I think I'm more suitable. Self-recommendation is invalid. I think Bailey Lianqing is more suitable. He hides a knife in his smile. He's cunning and scheming. Although he's a bit weak and dirty, he's more suitable to be the leader," Jing Tiangang said. "You flatter me. I only have a few good points. I'm just average. I think you're more suitable too. Although you're a bit weaker than me," Bailey Lianqing said with a smile. The first king glared fiercely at the two of them, and a wisp of conflict appeared on his rough and towering face. After looking at Chen Hao and the others, he seemed to hesitate for a moment before saying, "I think I'm more suitable." "You? Pui. I already said that self-recommendation is invalid. Although we have 10 people, we're in 6 groups. Only one person has the right to speak. Look at you. You're all brawn and no brains. Motherfucker, the two of you are obviously in cahoots to recommend each other." The first king said angrily, "Since self-recommendation is invalid, I recommend Brother Chen. Brother Chen, do as you deem fit." "What do you mean?" "I think Gao Dazhuang is more suitable." "Brother Gao, do as you deem fit." "What else is there to see?" "Zhang Rongrong, although you're a bit weaker than our Gao Dazhuang, we recommend you." Fuck. Chen Hao did not expect this group of people to be so extreme. Even the first king had misjudged him. "What do you mean by do as you deem fit?" "Ahem ahem." Chen Hao coughed twice with a thoughtful look on his face. After pondering for a moment, he said, "Let's cut the crap. It doesn't matter if you recommend me, or I recommend you. No matter who becomes the leader, the others will not accept it. Since the first king said that we have to rely on strength, let's just find a place and have a duel." "Duel? How can that be? We've already discussed this before. Even if there's a gap between us, it won't be that big. It won't be that easy to determine the winner. Even if someone dies," Gao Dazhuang said before Bai Xiaomei. "That's not a..." The beautiful sisters knew how strong Chen Hao's battle prowess was. Therefore, after hearing Gao Dazhuang's words, Leng Ninggle spoke up. However, before he could finish, he was stopped by Chen Hao, who said, "Since that's the case, let's change the method. I took a look at the cultivation gym when we first arrived. It covers all aspects and can definitely assess our strength. Although it might not be his true combat strength, the difference wasn't too big. Didn't you all not try your best during the test? This time, let's have a proper competition. Whether it's a mule or a horse, you'll know once you pull it out. Of course, this doesn't represent wisdom. Wisdom wasn't something that could be achieved just because someone said so. It needed time to verify it. Therefore, in this competition, we will only list the regiment commander as the temporary regiment commander when the Guardian Regiment is registered. After we have a deeper understanding of the Guardian Regiment, we will elect the regiment commander fairly. As long as it is for the sake of the Guardian Regiment, I don't think there will be such a situation where you choose me and I choose you, right? All right. I agree with Chen Hao's method. The first king was the first to speak, his rough and lofty face shining with strong confidence. The Guardian test only tested the basic options. Although he accepted his loss wholeheartedly, It didn't mean that he felt that he was inferior to Chen Hao. The cultivation gym covered all aspects of the cultivation gym. Only then could one better assess one's true strength. This time he was confident that he would win. I have no objections. Me neither. Let's start the competition directly. We will start from this gravity field. Whoever goes the deepest will win. The first place will have 6 points, and the points will decrease in order. You Dao companions will benefit a little, and take the ones with good results. There are 3 of you, so the benefits will be greater. After looking at the 2 pairs of Dao companions, Jing Tiangang looked at Chen Hao and the sisters and said, "No need. Huan Huan and Lele are my younger sisters, junior sisters, god sisters. Just take my results." After seeing the sisters' flushed faces, Chen Hao said directly. However, this fellow changed his words twice and said younger sisters. Obviously, they weren't blood-related. Junior sisters could be fooled by people who weren't familiar with them. But now that everyone knew about their situation, it wasn't suitable to be a junior sister. It was more suitable to be a god sister. There was no other way. He had to explain. Everyone obviously treated the sisters as his Dao companions. The first king was no exception. If he didn't explain, there would definitely be more awkwardness in the future. Hearing Chen Hao's words, apart from the first king, Bailey Lianqing and Jing Tiangang showed a surprised expression at the same time. Originally, when they thought that the sisters and Chen Hao were Dao companions, the 2 of them just glanced at each other and no longer looked at each other. This was the principle. They couldn't covet their friend's wife. In the future, they would be brothers and comrades. No matter how beautiful the sisters were, they couldn't be tempted. But now that Chen Hao specially explained, the 2 bachelors were suddenly overjoyed. Their eyes lit up as they looked at the sisters. They didn't hide their admiration at all. They had seen countless women, but they couldn't find one with talent, age, and outstanding appearance that could be their Dao companions. Since Chen Hao emphasized it in front of everyone, why should they be polite? "Brother Chen, no, my dear brother, are you serious?" Jing Tiangang, who originally said that Chen Hao was the most advantageous, had a 180-degree change in expression at this time. His face was full of flattery and flattery. He even called him his dear brother. "Brother, what's the point of testing? Didn't the first king just recommend you? I also recommend you to be the leader. Jing Tiangang, you also recommend our brother?" Bailey Lianqing hurriedly said when he saw that he was snatched first. "You motherfucker." Jing Tiangang scolded Bailey Lianqing in his heart for being shameless. Didn't he see that the sisters had telepathy? What did it mean to have telepathy? Naturally, it was best to follow one person. But this shameless guy actually wanted to have a share of the soup. Not only did he want to have a share of the soup, he also wanted to checkmate him. But he could only hurriedly reply, of course. Brother is the most suitable to be the leader." Chen Hao's face was tangled. Motherfucker, why were the people gathered together all the best this time? And to this extent? But why did he have the urge to beat the 2 of them to death? Wasn't it a good thing to have 2 super geniuses chasing after his god-granddaughter? At that time, these 2 guys would have to call him grandpa, right? Why did he want to beat them up? Could it be they touched my cheese? Chen Hao shuddered and quickly erased the thoughts in his mind. Gao Dazhuang and Zhang Rongrong, the husband and wife pair, were speechless and unhappy. The first king wished he could slap these 2 shameless fellows to death. They were just a pair of beautiful sisters. Yet these 2 fellows were so shameless? What was good-looking about them? So short, so small, so thin. The first king really couldn't understand. They were worlds apart from his dream girl. They couldn't even compare to Bai Xiaomei. Luckily, the first king only thought about it in his heart. If he really said it out loud, he was afraid that he would be despised by all the men in the world for having a problem with aesthetic standards. The sisters' faces were red. They reached out their small hands and pinched Chen Hao. Lung Ningla saw that Chen Hao didn't react and finally couldn't help but say, "We are temporarily Brother Hao's god sisters. We have difficulties now and can't reveal our real relationship. Isn't that right, Brother Hao?" Lung Ningla pouted and raised her head slightly. She moved closer to Chen Hao and asked coquettishly. Although Lung Ninghuan didn't say anything, she had the same expression as Lung Ningla. Yes, yes, our true relationship can't be made public. Chun Hao hurriedly said as he looked at the two beautiful little faces and the two pink lips. At the same time, he couldn't help but admire Lung Ninghuan's quick-wittedness. What she said was the truth. They were temporarily god-sisters. They couldn't reveal their real relationship. Their real relationship was their god-grandfather. But if that was the case in the eyes of others, what was it if not Dao companions? Cough cough. What a waste of emotions. What a waste of emotions. Cough cough. Let the competition begin. Let the competition begin. After removing the soundproof barrier, the 10 of them got up and walked directly into the gravitational field. After stepping through the light curtain, everyone's bodies trembled slightly. A huge pressure suddenly struck them, and their bodies instantly became 10 times heavier. Hi. Chi. At a glance, there were many cultivators walking under the 10 times gravitational field, displaying all kinds of skills. Some were practicing swords, some were practicing sabers, some were practicing movement techniques, palm techniques, and leg techniques. All of them were sweating profusely. It was obvious that they were challenging their limits. 10 times gravitational field was nothing to cultivators of the primordial soul realm. However, it only meant that they could withstand it. However, it was different here. Regardless of whether it was their body or their weapons, their weight had increased by 10 times. The same move would require 10 times the energy consumption. After cultivating here for a period of time, what would it be like to go out and use the same move again? Everyone had a look of arrogance on their faces as they walked forward. However, at this moment, Bai Xiaomei screamed and covered her mountain-like chest with her hands. Although there was nothing beautiful about it, it was really huge. Everyone could see this with their eyes. What are you looking at? Gao Dazhuang opened his arms and stood in front of Bai Xiaomei. At the same time, he turned to look at Bai Xiaomei and whispered, "Dear, what are you screaming for? I told you to wear a chest wrap. I don't feel comfortable wearing it." Who knew that the gravitational field would have such a huge effect? "It's okay, I'll carry it." Everyone was speechless. How high did one have to be to say such words? Wasn't it just a voice transmission? Chun Hao couldn't help but look at the beautiful sisters from the corner of his eyes. He knew that they weren't small either. Luckily, they didn't have any reaction. After all, not everyone could do something like a vacuum. After the commotion, the 10 of them continued to move forward at the same speed. None of them used any energy, and were completely relying on their physical bodies to withstand the gravitational field. It was only 10 times the gravitational field. How could they be the first to show weakness? Although the gravitational field gradually increased as they went deeper, it was still within their tolerance range. The gravitational field of a level 1 cultivation stadium was at least 1,000 times the gravitational field. The deeper they went, the stronger the gravitational field. Everyone knew that with their cultivation and physical strength, they wouldn't be able to reach a depth of 1,000 times the gravitational field. It wasn't that they couldn't withstand 1,000 times the gravitational field. It was that their cells and organs couldn't withstand it. Chapter 391. The scene of the 10 of them walking in a row quickly attracted the attention of many cultivators. Especially the aura and age of the 10 of them. Every one of them was a top-notch prodigy. Moreover, the immortal Dao, the demon Dao, and the monster Dao were all present. There were beautiful women, handsome men and weak men. In short, the appearance of the 10 of them in the gravitational field formed a strange and extremely coquettish visual feast. Everyone knew that the 10 of them were having a competition. Although such a scene did not appear often, it was not uncommon. However, it was the first time they had seen such a competition where prodigies gathered. It's not challenging at all. Let's gather our energy and go to the 500x gravitational field first. Then we'll go deeper together. How about that? If we continue like this, we won't be able to finish in a day. Chun Hao and I don't have any points. We'll have to pay 10,000 superior grade primal crystal stones a day. First King could not help but say. The gravitational field was extremely huge. The gravity only doubled every 3,000 feet. Although their speed was not slow, It would take them at least 4 hours to reach the 500x gravitational field. It was a complete waste of time. Alright, let's start with the 500x gravitational field. Let's go. Chi, everyone agreed. Immediately, they gathered their energy and went deeper into the gravitational field as fast as lightning. What a good place. After I earn some points, I'll cultivate here for a while. As they went deeper into the gravitational field, Chunhao felt the gravitational field getting stronger and stronger. He was a little excited. He could not help but sigh at the power of the central continent. Not to mention the entire cultivation stadium. Just the gravitational field alone was something that could only be found by chance outside of the central continent. With such a favorable condition, Chunhao believed that his physical body would be able to reach a higher level. His various techniques would also be greatly improved, especially the solitary sword technique. The solitary sword technique had to be tempered in water, waterfalls, and other adverse conditions for the best effect. In this gravitational field, it was better than being in water or under waterfalls. Of course, with Chunhao's current wealth, even if he used origin crystal stones to cultivate, it would not be a big deal. But wasn't frugality a kind of beauty? It was shameful to waste them. Moreover, Chunhao didn't have a lot of primal crystal stones on hand. He only had a few million or so left. When he left Heavenly Mist City, he gave most of the primal crystal stones to Lung Konya, so that he could help deliver them to the star-picking sect. In the beginning, everyone increased their speed to the limit. However, as they went deeper and deeper, everyone, including Chunhao, slowed down. If it were in the outside world, every step he took would have been enough to crush hard rocks into powder. His bones, muscles, veins, and even every cell in his body emitted cracking sounds under the effect of the terrifying gravity, becoming incomparably heavy. Handsome men were no longer handsome. Beautiful women were no longer beautiful, and their bodies and faces were a little out of shape. Looking at everyone's appearance, Chunhao couldn't help but think of the extremely ugly aliens. Why was it ugly? Firstly, it could be that their aesthetic standards were indeed different. Secondly, the biggest possibility was that they didn't look like this on their own planet. They adapted to the gravitational field of their own planet. When they were no longer on their own planet, the gravitational field would change, and their originally perky breasts might droop down to their stomachs. Of course, this was from a planet with a low gravitational field to a planet with a high gravitational field. If the gravitational field changed from a planet with a high gravitational field to a planet with a low gravitational field, then they would be stylish supermen. They would be so strong that they would be able to fly with just a casual jump. And this gravitational field cultivation room was undoubtedly a place to cultivate supermen, especially when it came to restraining one's own energy and relying solely on one's physical strength. If one trained here, it would definitely have an amazing effect on tempering one's physical body. An hour later, the 10 people finally arrived at the range of the 500-fold gravitational field. At this depth, there weren't many cultivators left, only a few dozen people scattered about. Moreover, each of them had a cultivation of the late-stage primordial soul realm or above. In the 500-fold gravitational field, the 10 people could clearly feel the terrifying force that their internal organs were enduring even if they used all the true yuan in their bodies. Even if they stood still, the consumption was huge. Let's officially begin. Let me remind everyone, don't push yourself like a toad on a table. If you can't take it, immediately activate the token. Otherwise, just wait to become a pile of mud. Jing Tiangang said with a solemn expression. Once the Guardian token was activated here, it would emit a light screen that isolated the gravitational field. This was also a method to protect the cultivators. Otherwise, they would have to hurry back before they ran out of energy. How would they be able to break through their limits then? That's right. Don't lose your life for the commander. It's not worth it. Now let's start going deeper together. Whoever lasts until the end will be the winner. Let's go. The first king said in a deep voice. Immediately, the 10 people once again moved at a moderate speed, maintaining the same time and pace as they continued to go deeper. 500 times. Although it was not everyone's limit, it was not far from it. The consumption became very large, and because of the slow speed, every step became incomparably heavy. In just a short 10 minutes, everyone was sweating profusely. However, what made Chen Hao and the others speechless was that Bai Xiaomei, who was tall and slightly more voluptuous, was obviously the weakest. She was drenched in sweat, and her clothes were soaked in an instant. Everyone could hear her heavy breathing. However, even though she was panting, she was still moaning from time to time. If one did not see her, they would really think that she was having an orgasm. Fortunately, when they reached the 600-fold gravitational field, Bai Xiaomei finally could not hold on any longer. Under Gao Dazhuang's gentle persuasion, especially when he said, "Don't change your shape in certain places," Bai Xiaomei finally gave in. She was the first to activate the guardian light of the guardian token, escaping from the abyss of suffering. 10 minutes later, the beautiful sisters of the Lung clan, Tan Hui, and the other two ladies also activated their light of protection. It was not that they did not feel the pressure of not competing for the position of leader, but that they really could not take it anymore. In terms of physical strength, women were still lacking compared to men. Under the guardian light, the four women became spectators. Bai Xiaomei and Tan Hui were cheering for their men, but the sisters did not say a word. They were very calm. Even if they used their perky butts to think, they were sure that Chen Hao would get first place. Just by looking at the expressions of the six people, they could more or less guess. Time passed minute by minute, and in the blink of an eye, another 5 minutes had passed. However, these 5 minutes were extremely long for Jing Tiangang, Bailey Liancheng, and Zhang Rongrong. As the gravitational field continued to increase, the three of them clenched their teeth tightly. Creaking sounds could be heard from their bones from time to time. What flowed out from their bodies was no longer pure sweat, but blood. Every single one of them had turned blood red. Obviously, the gravitational field had reached the limit of what their bodies could withstand. Even with the protection of True Yuan, it did not have much effect. Their speed was also getting slower and slower. First King's situation was slightly better, but not by much. It was just that his footwork was still firm. On the other hand, Chen Hao and Gao Dazhuang were still relaxed. As for Chen Hao, the sisters were not surprised at all. It was within their expectations. However, Gao Dazhuang's aura was not very strong in the sisters' senses. But at this moment, other than sweating like Chen Hao, his expression was actually more relaxed than Chen Hao's. Under the guardian light, Bai Xiaomei was the opposite of the sisters. She was not surprised by Gao Dazhuang's performance, but by Chen Hao. She was very clear about the origin of Gao Dazhuang's name. It was absolutely true. Her name was Bai Xiaomei, and in front of Gao Dazhuang, it was also true. It was just that a special dual cultivation technique had caused Gao Dazhuang to become like this. As he grew older, not only did he not grow taller, but he also shrank back. However, it was also this shrinkage that allowed Gao Dazhuang's body to become terrifyingly strong. She did not dare to say anything else, but how could anyone compare to her Gao Dazhuang in this aspect? However, the extraordinarily handsome Chen Hao's performance at this moment was actually not inferior to her Gao Dazhuang's. This shocked her greatly. At this moment, the six people's speed slowed down under the influence of the weakling. It was almost no different from walking. They still maintained the same speed. The powerful Gao Dazhuang and Chen Hao did not walk faster just because it was easier for them. If that happened, they would be at a disadvantage. After all, it was a competition of depth and endurance. If they walked faster, they would have to endure more pressure in advance. They would definitely be at a disadvantage in terms of time. Chi. Cough cough. This is my weakness. I'll let you have it. Zhang Rongrong could no longer straighten his back. When he was about to collapse, he knew that he had reached his limit. He had no choice but to activate the guardian light in advance and announce his withdrawal. This guy's face was glistening with blood and sweat. His face was the same color as his clothes. At this moment, he finally had the strength to look at the 5 people who were still standing. When he saw Gao Dazhuang and Chen Hao's appearance, he sucked in a breath of cold air. Their bodies are actually so strong. As soon as Zhang Rongrong withdrew, the Buddha-like Bailey Liancheng also activated the guardian light and said, "Motherfucker, there's so much flesh, it hurts to pull. I'm too manly, pulling so hard that my balls hurt. Stop." Jing Tiangang also activated the guardian light a second later than Bailey Lianqing. The words he said were even more shameless. Spit on your face. If I knew you were like this, I wouldn't have retreated. Even if you die, you still have to drag it out with me. Bailey Lianqing scolded Jing Tiangang. Fuck, then don't retreat? I beg you? No means no. In 1 second I'm the boss. What? These two guys are so strong? Jing Tiangang turned his head and saw Chen Hao and Gao Dazhuang. He was immediately surprised. Our Zhuang will definitely be first. Zhuang can be big or small, long or short. When he's big, his arms are thicker than your thighs. Zhuang, if you can't do it, then you can be smaller. Anyway, there are no outsiders around. Let them know your strength. Bai Xiaomei said proudly. She didn't feel that her words were awesome at all. Why did it sound like she was attacking Jing Tiangang's, pulling so hard that my balls hurt? Chapter 392. That's enough, what's the rush? Gao Dazhuang said proudly. The first king had wanted to persist, but after hearing everyone's conversation and seeing that Gao Dazhuang dared to speak, he knew that there was not much hope left. He could feel how strong Chen Hao's blood qi was. Thus he did not torture himself and simply activated the light of protection, announcing his withdrawal. Chen Hao, I didn't expect you to be so strong. I can at least hold on for half an hour here. There's no pressure. Why don't we go deeper? Gao Dazhuang looked at everyone's surprised eyes, especially Bai Xiaomei's infatuated eyes, and wanted to show off his strength. He said proudly and provocatively. But it seemed that this sentence was a little long, and by the time he said it, he had started to tremble. It was obvious that under such terrifying pressure, he was a little weak. But he did not mind. He believed that Chen Hao would have difficulty speaking. But okay. Then let's go. Chen Hao, who was sweating profusely, said. Although he didn't say much, his voice was calm, as if he was speaking normally. What surprised the crowd even more was that as Chen Hao spoke, he took a step forward. His figure was as straight as a sword, and his steps were steady. Every time he landed on the ground, there would be a loud thud. Gao Dazhuang was a little dumbfounded. His intention was to show that he was relaxed and defeat Chen Hao psychologically. But he did not expect that not only did it not have any effect, but it also did as he said. If he could really shrink, it would be fine. The key was that he could not shrink now. If he had done it before entering, it would have been fine. But now every cell in his body was under immense pressure, and if he activated it, it would probably collapse. But since he had already said so, he could only brace himself and follow Chen Hao. Unfortunately, after a few steps, he fell to the ground with a bang, amidst Bai Xiaomei's screams. Immediately, a golden light flashed, and the light of protection rose. Why can't I? Chen Hao twisted his neck, and a proud smile appeared on his face as he asked in surprise. Fuck. I made a mistake. It was definitely a mistake. I didn't control my strength well, and my center of gravity deviated. Let's start again. I haven't even displayed my strongest physical body yet. That's right. Zhuang can also shrink a little, and increase its size by 2 times. FRB added. You can do that? If you lost, then you lost. Why do you have so many reasons? The first king upheld justice and said, it doesn't matter. Then you can shrink back. Let's continue. Chen Hao said fearlessly. Forget it. I won't easily reveal my trump card. No matter how close I am to someone, I still have to keep a low profile. You win. Gao Dazhuang waved his hand and said. However, in his heart, he was scolding himself for being careless. If he had unleashed his strongest state from the start, this wouldn't have happened. Now his whole body felt like it was falling apart. His muscles and veins were on the verge of collapsing. How could he shrink back? Next was the Heavenly Fire Body Tempering Zone, the Mystic Ice Body Tempering Zone, the Puppet Combat Zone, the Reaction Training Zone, the Attack Power Training Zone, the Body Technique Training Zone, the Pressure Tolerance Training Zone, the Extraterrestrial Monster Level Simulation Training Zone, and so on. It took 2 whole days to finish. The first king had no choice but to pay the fees for the four of them. When they walked out of the cultivation gym, other than the beautiful sisters who knew Chen Hao relatively better, the first king, Bailey Lianqing, and the rest of the 7 people looked at Chen Hao in a completely different way. Which of the 7 of them wasn't a monstrous genius? Which of them didn't have some unique skills and specialties? However, just like Gao Dazhuang's strong physical body, they were all wiped out by Chen Hao in all the competitions. Without exception, he came in first place. And every time, this guy gave people the feeling that he was holding back. When it happened once or twice, everyone thought that this guy was just showing off. But after a day, including the first king who got second place in the overall results, they really felt that Chen Hao wasn't showing off, but was really awesome. This is a level 1 communication device, a total of 10. It's convenient for your guardian group to communicate. This is a level 1 mission recorder, a total of 10. The situation of your completion of the mission will be recorded. It's also an important proof for exchanging points. This is a level 1 spirit treasure, psychic mirror, a total of 10. As long as it's connected, you will be able to see each other's situation. They all need to be refined with blood. These are the basic benefits of the League of Guardians, but they are all spirit treasures. This is the badge of your guardian squad. Okay, congratulations on becoming a level 1 guardian group. Thank you. In the Alliance Palace in the Guardian Group Registration Hall, Chen Hao, who was already the temporary leader, took the spirit treasure that he was very interested in from the old man and distributed it to the beautiful sisters, the first king, and the rest. The badge had a sky blue background and 2 small golden words were written on it, Proud Heaven. This was the name of the guardian group proposed by Zhang Rongrong, and more than half of the people agreed and half did not object. Although Chen Hao felt that it was a bit ostentatious, he accepted it. After all, compared to the names of many guardian group, the 2 words Proud Heaven were already very mild. There were words like Devour the Heavens, Defy the Heavens, Sun the Heavens, and Fuck the Heavens. Temporary leader, our Proud Heaven has been successfully established. As the leader, shouldn't you treat us to a drink and celebrate? We don't have high requirements. Let's just find a tavern. The one called Ocean Sky Tavern will do. Zhang Rongrong, who was dressed in a red robe, stroked the long hair in front of his forehead. He didn't have any awareness of being a follower, and said very provocatively, Yes. Just find a private room on the top floor of the Ocean Sky Tavern, and pay attention to it. Temporary leader, this is the first thing a leader has to do. You can't be so stingy with such a small amount of money. Jing Tiangang also said. These 2 fellows were clearly deliberately making a fool of Chen Hao. When they paid the second day's fees at the cultivation hall, it was the first king who paid for it. However, Chen Hao didn't say anything about returning it to the first king. The first king didn't care. They also didn't care. However, it let them know that Chen Hao might be a poor man. After all, Chen Hao came from the eastern continent. Of course, no problem. It's just a small tavern. I guarantee that you'll drink well. Chen Hao said with a faint smile. Cough cough. Chen Hao, you just arrived at distant Song City. Don't listen to these 2 fellows. The Ocean Sky Tavern is the largest tavern in distant Song City. Even the lowest price on the first floor is. Hey, First King, what do you mean? Are you looking down on the temporary leader? You're still calling him Chen Hao? You have to call him temporary leader. Our Proud Heaven has just been established. How can the temporary leader not pay a bit of blood to celebrate? Let's get to know each other. In the future, we will fight side by side. The straightforward first king was only halfway through his sentence when he was interrupted by Bailey Lianqing. That's right. It's just a drink. How can our temporary leader be reluctant? Why talk about money? It hurts our relationship. Gao Dazhuang also chimed in. Obviously, other than the first king, these fellows wanted to rip off Chen Hao. Although they believed that they would be the ones paying in the end, it was also good to let Chen Hao make a fool of himself. Otherwise, this temporary leader would be too awe-inspiring in front of them. What if it was too convenient, and it became official? Yes, Gao Dazhuang is right. Talking about money hurts our relationship. Originally, We were going to gather enough primal crystal stones to pay back the 60,000 high-grade primal crystal stones that the first king helped us pay. How am I going to talk about it now? Wouldn't this hurt our relationship as brothers? Chen Hao looked at Gao Dazhuang sympathetically and said in all seriousness. Hearing Chen Hao's words, the first king didn't feel that there was anything wrong. It was only 60,000 high-grade primal crystal stones. Although it wasn't a small amount to him, he didn't put it in his eyes to make friends with a brother like Chen Hao. And Chen Hao's words, in his opinion, were also reasonable. If he really paid it back, would he still want it? Hurting their relationship as brothers was too polite. Let's go. It's my treat. Chen Hao said straightforwardly. Wait. Zhang Rongrong suddenly said. What's wrong? You want to gather 60,000 high-grade primal crystal stones? Gather? Why talk about money? It hurts our relationship. Let's drink first. I haven't drunk in a long time. This time, I have to drink enough. I don't ask for the best, but the most expensive. What money? So vulgar. Chen Hao said as he pulled the sisters and took the lead to walk forward. Fuck. Jing Tiangang, Gao Dazhuang, Zhang Rongrong, and Bailey Lianqing all stared at each other. How could there be such a thick-skinned person? He should be embarrassed and ashamed, but this poor guy seemed to be taking it for granted that he was poor. It was obvious that he wanted to drink and make them pay in the end. What was the top floor of the Ocean Sky restaurant? If 10 people went to drink, the lowest cost would be 100,000 high-grade primal crystal stones. It was definitely a synonym for luxury. How could ordinary cultivators afford it? Only monstrous people like them, who were rich, didn't care. But Chen Hao's I don't ask for the best, but the most expensive really scared these guys. That was definitely something that couldn't be bought without 1,000,000 high-grade primal crystal stones. Don't look at me, I'm also very poor. Seeing everyone's eyes focused on him, the initiator Zhang Rongrong hurriedly said. He looked at Gao Dazhuang and said, It's all because you said that talking about money hurts relationships. You pay. Fuck, who knew he was so shameless? You caused it, you pay. Don't embarrass yourself. Let's split it evenly. At most, we can drink 1,000,000. Proud Heavens is newly established. We should celebrate however much we want. Let's go. As the temporary second in command, Shi Wang directly said. The top floor private room. And the most luxurious one. Chen Hao took the lead, and the two beautiful sisters stood on his left and right. They had an imposing and handsome appearance. And after they arrived at the luxurious Ocean Sky Tavern, they faced the beautiful waitress who came to greet them and spoke with a proud expression. He had the air of a rich lord. But just as this guy finished speaking, everyone, including Shi Wang, almost fell down. The most luxurious one. Motherfucker, this probably wouldn't even be worth 1,000,000. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.